And now I am president. Now I am present. Hello, chat. You're looking very fine tonight. So, we're going to see what's in the box. Finally, not one model at a time, but maybe all at once. So we may be seeing some sprues. We may be seeing some things that are not sprues. We might be seeing some rulebook words. Who's to say? Most of the models shown off in detail. Well, it might be just, here's a pile of sprues. You'll figure it out. It depends how much Games Workshop is scared of 3D printing. Now, they know that all of their models will eventually become 3D prints pretty quickly. However, as they've been showing off models and slowly spinning them, or quickly spinning them, people have been able to take pictures of like the whole model and then 3D print it. People have 3D prints of the Grotz that have been shown off this week, of the Vanguard veteran. So if they do everything shown off, then they'll have nothing to release. So maybe it just is a pile of sprues and then a couple of books, and the books have words in them. And that might be it. Vampire.jpg, indeed. Just hope the box will add to a Deathwatch army. Well, the Vanguard veterans certainly should. I have some Vanguard veterans. I'm going to wait and see when we get the Space Marine Codex, which is probably going to be September, that we get the new Space Marine Codex. Then we'll know the weapons that the Vanguard veterans can have. Of course, everyone's doing the 7 meme. Thank you, McFatson. You tried out Gene Stealers because of me. Yay! I hope you enjoy the Gene Stealers. Yes. So what have we got? What have we got? We don't know how bad their audio will be, but at least my audio is working fine. Is the audio good? I assume the audio is good. Excellent. Took on knights. It was ground into a fine paste. Interesting. You might need, say, acolytes with mining tools to take care of them. It's painted neophytes? Painting neophytes. Good. There's always so many neophytes to paint. Now, Games Workshop should be doing this within the Games Workshop studio, so the audio should be fine. It should be. You're happy to see the Mark 7 helmet? So many people are like, it's an intercessor, but with the Mark 7 helmet, so they want it. Or we could get tactical squads. They're still available to buy. You can get them. They're on the Games Workshop website as well. There's a lot of new old stuff for like the Reavers, the Red Corsairs. That all came out. Yes. They looked very nice. There haven't been as many articles about the next edition as I expected. There was, what, 4 articles about cover, about how the cards work, about your detachments, and one other about the charge phase, and that's it. Have they run out of major rules changes already? Now what they should do, and I'm assuming they'll do, is in May, which is the current month, do some articles about how each faction will change, and an overview of what detachments they will get. That's what they should do. That's what they did last time, and there was a lot more hype for 10th edition because 9th edition and 10th edition was such a big change. Can we get a Grot tier list? Maybe. Let's have a look. That has been a very strange thing to see, of course. I mean, what has the hype been for this week? Oh, it's a Grot. And the next day, may I offer you another Grot in these hypeless times? It's meant that I've been working on other videos this week, some of which you've seen. It meant that I talked to Paul and then within like 12 hours, in 24 hours, then I had the video out. And we got our April Blood Ball podcast thing done. Yay. And it also means that final day is coming. I'm going to do the final day. Also, yay. Now, where's my screenshot of the Grotz? Okay. There's a Grotz. Right. So, ranking these Grotzes, they don't have much in the way of ears. I like single pistol in the bottom right. That's one of my favorites. Then I think stick bomb grot. Then top left, pickelhaube grot with the grot blaster. Then I think knife grot. Then bigger gun grot with the top knot. So there's my order. 5, 4, 1, 3, 2. That's ranking the grots. We've all ranked the grots now. Of course, what I would have expected, and other people have mentioned it as well, it's the ears. You can see it there. That is a very tiny, not quite what you'd expect of Gretchen ears. There's the artwork in the background showing you what the big pointy ears are like. You've got the big nose, you need the big ears as well. But they're perfectly fine as Gretchen. I didn't realize, and it took me quite a while, I was playing last week? No, 2 weeks ago? I think 2 weeks ago, against an Orc player, and they had the Gretchen, and I thought the Gretchen was still resin. I didn't realize they'd made them in plastic. In my mind, there were still the metal ones that became the resin ones. It's ear shrinkflation. Grot spam? We could do Grot spam. Well, we might get, like in the second edition starter set, 40 Gretchen. I don't know, when was old 40k? Or there's middle 40k. When is new 40k? Unsure. It depends on your age for whether or not you're hyped for 11th edition. Can I do a poll? Where is the button to do a poll? Okay, I'll do a poll. So, hyped for 11th edition. And I want 4 options. Now, when is... It tends to be that people who have been playing for a while, like your age in the hobby, will depend whether or not you're hyped for this or not. So, if you have started in... like 9th edition or 10th edition, and so this is your first or like second change of edition, then you're going to be considered a recent player. If you have been around for much longer, then you're not a recent player. You'll be considered an older player. This is nothing to do with your age. So if I pop all these into a poll. Right. So, are we hyped for 11th edition? There should now be a poll available. There it is. Yes, so if you're recently into 40k, you've started in like the past, say, 4 or 5 years. If you're an older player, then you would have been playing for like 10 years maybe. Here since 5th edition, yes. That would be an older player. What if you played both 10th and 5th and 10th edition? I suppose that's an older player, unless you really disliked one edition. What tends to happen is people will not be super interested in something and just end up drifting away and playing other things, which is kind of what I've been with Age of Sigmar. I don't have anything massive against Age of Sigmar 4th edition, but since I've played it like twice this edition, I haven't really found anything like, oh yeah, I need to play this again next week, because I can play Old World, or I can play more 40k, and there's many different ways of doing 40k. Started in 1999 and been struggling to pick up your first army. Well, I would say you're still hyped for it. Oh, why are you painting Space Wolves? That just makes me sad. Space Wolves are the worst. Pick a vampire army at the very least. Vampire Space Marines. That could be better. You have enough sisters. I suppose that's enough sisters. 3,000 points. My problem with Genestealer Cult and my 3, 4, 5,000 points of them is several of those units are Tyranid units, so they now only work in Final Day. Or they're units that only work because they're Imperial Guard units. It's like 1,000 points of Brood Brothers Imperial Guard. Which now, in this edition, can only do sometimes. Oh, you're surprised the vampire doesn't like the werewolves? Jaded by the 10th edition balancing. Now, the balancing has been weird. It's like they fix things, most things, within a few weeks. However, they also release things in a not great state. As we've seen for what's been happening the past 3 months, 4 months. Since the start of 2026, we've had 4 campaign books with a 5th on the way. That is very, very rapid. And more units are coming out, and they're not balanced, and we can see they're not balanced, and they're too strong, and their points are not great. Yeesh. But mostly, that's been fixed in a couple of weeks. Grey Knights are the true enemy of sisters. Yes. Yes. Okay, well, according to the poll, yeah, people who have gotten into it more recently are happier and more excited about 11th edition, but people who have been in it a bit longer are also generally excited for 11th edition. I suppose we wouldn't keep playing if we weren't at least interested in it. You wouldn't turn up to someone who's talking about 40k on the day of the 40k, you come to me on the day of my 40k 11th edition box release. No, that's more King Charles than it is Italian Mafia. Never mind. The voice is in there somewhere. But you wouldn't watch someone talk about 40k's new release if you weren't at least interested in 40k's new release. Maybe you've been playing since 4th edition, or heaven forfend, maybe you've been playing since 2nd edition. Some of us have. There is very little change generally in the rules. There's hit rolls, then there's wound rolls, then there's save rolls. You move about 6 inches for infantry. That has been the same for the last 30 years. We've seen it before, and we also remember what used to be there. Like, ally rules were awful, but also fun. Templates, scatter dice, those were liked by a lot of people, not so much others. I was okay with them gone. Armor facings I would like, but never mind. Also really cool supplements. Different campaign books. Codex Witch Hunters. That was amazing! We loved Codex Witch Hunters. It had Inquisition Stormtroopers, it had Celestians with guns, which we don't have anymore, so there's a bit of, we used to have something cool, now we don't. I don't know about power creep for bolters as the best example. They have toned down power creep quite a lot. We haven't had in 10th edition, the new codex comes out, and it's the strongest one out there, until the next codex comes out. And that just went on and on in 9th edition. Until we got to Votan, and this was like sweeping armies in a turn or two. So there's like 2 levels of interest. Some people are like, hey, this is brand new and interesting and exciting. To other people, it's more of the same game. I'm fine with more of the same game. But I also miss Celestians with guns. Is it cope to want sister toughness and wounds to go up? No. Sisters used to be toughness 4, but that was in 2nd edition. The big bolter change was between 7th and 8th edition, when they changed what armor penetration was. Rather than completely ignoring a save, it was a modifier to a save. That was the big difference. So 8th edition is when we start new hammer, because it was a significant enough divergence from, say, 3rd edition to 7th edition. Yes, all the Space Wolves get to go to Legends. Why not? Even the new stuff. Especially Wolfen. especially Wolfen. I have not felt a deep need to change the rules. Think of 10th edition, considering how much they've changed it already this edition, where devastating wounds, how they work changed, which stratagems are free for characters when you can use this thing for free. Well, battle tactics, it was only battle tactics at one point. Then it was anything, but rather than making the stratagem free, it reduced the cost by 1. So you couldn't use a 2 command point thing for free just on certain characters. How close you can deep strike changed. 9 inches, then you can land 6 inches away, which is the new thing for some stratagems. It used to be 3 inches. There's been consistent new detachments, if not for me, because 5 detachments for the Sisters, 6 for Gene Stealer Cult. There have at least been new detachments for me to play against. At your local group, if you have I don't know, Facebook group or Discord for it, and you say, I would like to play against the new detachment, there's going to be someone who wants to play that, and they were looking for an opponent already. So you can get games in and get interesting new novel games. We don't know what'll happen to Eldar. Eldar are either incredibly strong in like 2nd edition and 3rd edition and 6th edition and 7th edition and 10th edition, or they are very expensive toughness 3 bodies. There's not really been an in-between. And unlike a lot of people, I also play almost all the expansions and Crusade, so I've had no shortage of new things. I also play like 6 armies regularly. If you're a tournament player who does an event every weekend with the same army and no legends allowed, you will have been bored after 3 months and desperately begging for change. Rather have war gear back than damage tables. Yeah, we've seen a damage table of sort in the upcoming Armageddon Return of Yarick book, but that seems to be a having vehicles only fight. And that's an interesting idea across like the Ash Wastes. It's all vehicles only. And then each different kind of vehicle will have its own damage table. That's how it used to be in 2nd edition. Splash damage? Ooh, no, I don't like splash damage. Where you can kill 4 things because you're damaged 12. What's my favorite Space Marine chapter? If Death Watch are a chapter, it's them, because I collect them. Otherwise, Blood Angels are cool. I have Imperial Fists. Firing arcs are better. Being able to hit a tank in the flank and do more damage. Or in the rear, and make it easier to wound them. That can be fun. Alright, so we're going to do stuff about the new box. The new box is coming, which is going to kill off all of my older What's in the Box videos. Kind of last chance to watch them. Should have mentioned them. So what will be in the box? I'm hoping for terrain. If anyone knows or remembers the 2nd edition starter set, it might be easier if I just pull up a picture. There's a good picture. Now I need to get that picture onto the screen. There it is. So there's the 2nd edition starter set. You can see you get a lot of stuff. All of that is card terrain in the background. And you get a card Orc Dreadnought, which I really liked. And you got 20 Space Marines, 20 Orcs, and I think it was like 40 Gretchen. It was like 60 in total. It's a lot of stuff. And you got all of these War Gear cards. They did War Gear cards back then. So if you needed to have, or you wanted a particular kind of War Gear, like a Vortex Grenade, you needed to have the corresponding card for it. And there's loads of supplements. There was a book that just listed all the war gear, so if you want to look up the stats of something, it's in that book. You got the core rules, and you got the Codex Imperials. I thought was like I think that was a get you by army rules to say, okay, here's your basic Space Marine stuff and your basic Orc stuff so you can play. Didn't you get some actual plastic ruins in 3rd edition? You did, and you see them on tables all of the time and forever. You also got those same ruins in a lot of the Battle Force boxes. A Battle Force was essentially a combat patrol for nowadays, but it was £50 rather than £100. Is there a live stream up? Okay, I will switch to that. Yep, I can hear something in the background, so there we go. I'm ready, see? I'll move slightly out the way. Then we've got this. Pop that a bit higher so we can see more of the chat. Have the link at the top with the money place you can drop. If you want to drop me money, link is in the description for Ko-fi. Then it will appear on screen. So I'm wondering how much card we see. I'm also wondering if we'll get a... Let me just... I assume you can't hear the background noise. No, you can't. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's fine. Currently, their background music is okay. I see we have a Space Marine there with a shield and sword that isn't the captain. Are we going to get even more Blade Guard, perhaps? Yes, I've seen there's a StarCraft tabletop game. I'm assuming that someone near me will get it, and then I'll play it, and I may be interested at that point. Maybe. Is this going to be Blade Guard 2? Yeah, they're just going to keep sending all the Primaris stuff away. Blade Guard? No, you can't use Blade Guard anymore. These are 5 Guard. Ooh. Thank you very much, Finkenfan. That's very kind of you. Oh yeah, there'll be plenty of 11th edition videos. Sisters in 11th edition, Genestealer Cult in 11th edition, Deathwatch in 11th edition, Imperial Agents in 11th edition. I'm sure they'll exist. They're more likely to exist than Deathwatch. Blade Guard with sharper swords. I mean, that looks like a shorter Gladius blade. I also see the Mark 7 helmet. Sorry, I'm being a bit loud because I can hear the background music. 1 unit Blood Angels only? Not in the starter set. Definitely not in the starter set. These are going to be available to every army. So I'm looking forward to a campaign book in this starter set, as we had an Armageddon campaign book, as in like 4th edition. There was a campaign book that taught you the rules and also was interesting. I wonder how much we'll see of like the card decks, because there's a card, say, well, you've got the mission deck, the Armageddon mission deck. Deathwatch may not be dead. Deathwatch may just lose 1 unit, or be different. I'll be interested to see what happens to Deathwatch. It hopefully is good. They have had more love recently than some other factions, because they're Space Marines, that's why. So yeah, I want to see some of these cards for the missions, and they said there's another card deck? Don't know what that is. Who's to say? I'm assuming this is going to be their live stream because they'll take questions from the chat, which at least this time looks like they have a moderator, which is better. Well, we know Imperial Agents Codex for 10th edition is compatible with 11th edition, so it'll stick around for now. Unless they say, okay, all the detachments are gone and not allowed. Yeah, new Primaris Decimus Aquila Kill Team is a Deathwatch Primaris version. And they've also got like the Fortis Kill Team, which is Intercessors and Plasma Men. Want to buy a Corvus? I mean, it's fun at the moment to play the Armored Spear Tip detachment. That may also get patched in a few weeks. And the Corvus otherwise is... Yeah, I would give it a couple of months and then see what happens. And if it does go in Legends, just play with Legends. Then it's fine. Right, so I'm expecting to see... We've seen a War Boss. We've seen a lot of Gretchen. That, unfortunately, might be half the Gretchen. Yeah. Orc Boys. We'll see some more Orc Boys. We've got the big mech on the big walker gun. Weird Boy we've seen. A Boss Nob or a squad of Nobs, perhaps. And then for the Space Marines, a Librarian, because we've seen that in the box art. A Captain with a shield. Vanguard Veterans with jump packs. 10 Intercessors. I don't know if they're going to paint them red or paint them blue. Because in the trailer, they had some Ultramarines. But, you know, in the 9th edition trailer, they also had some Battle Sisters, and they did not appear in the box set. A land speeder, new land speeder. Do you think they'll include the terrain in the box? I would hope so. I hope they have, you know, MDF card, terrain, and they've got the footprints. And they've got the cards. That would be like 2nd edition, because that was, in my ranking, you know, the best set. And if they can do that for everything, do the whole, this is a full game in a box, that will sell. Because think of like the last few editions, it's been, here's some models and a core rulebook. And that's about it. And then you got to make the battlefield yourself. What else is the land speeder? New land speeder. Or rename the land speeder. Just call it a land speeder. Come on, don't be weird, Games Workshop. Nerdy! Thank you very much for the monies. I hope you're excited for the this. No, I'll have the live stream so you can hear the live stream and I'll just talk over it. Every now and then. Every now and then, right? It'll be starting soon. What else is there going to be? Oh yeah, Gravis Marines with heavy bolters. And also a chaplain with a jump pack. That should be everything. And then we'll see... I mean, Games Workshop's been calling this for like narrative purposes. In an article, they called this the Third War of Armageddon. So what was the Season of Blood with Angron? Is that a blip we don't talk about, where the orcs went away and then came back? Because it sounds like 5 different wars to me. Where we had the first war, which was Angron messing up the planet. Then the Grey Knights banished him, and he went away for 1,000 years. Then the orcs arrived with Ghazghkull, and we had the defense of Hades, a hive. Yeah, I thought it would be the 5th war. Then, you know, Ghazghkull was driven off, and most of the orcs were driven off. They went into the equatorial jungles. Then in the 3rd war, Ghazghkull came back towards the end of the 41st millennium, and then he smashed Hades' hive, and orcs came out of the jungles. That was the 3rd war. Then I would say the 4th war was when Angron turned up, and most of the orcs were dead or gone or driven to the corners. And then this 5th war is Ghazghkull and everyone comes back. Thank you, someone. That is appreciated. 6th war if you count Ullanor. Yeah, that's the War of Ullanor. Suppose that's different to the, what's it, campaign, crusade, Ullanor crusade? Ullanor crusade. I suppose that'd be different from the Armageddon ones, because they're totally different planets if you rename them. 4th Tyrannic War, yes, it turned up and then it stopped, and it's still Leviathan. That very much does feel like a continuation of the 3rd war. It's just the main part of the 3rd war was on Baal. That seems to have mostly ended with the help of Khorne demons. Shut up, don't talk about it. Yeah. 1st war and 4th war censured by the Armageddon. Okay, yeah, okay. So if we say the 1st war and the 4th war have been blipped out by the Inquisition, then this is the 3rd war against the orcs. Very confusing. Why can't they be consistent? Yeah, we're still waiting on a lot of things happening in a lot of wars. But then some of the wars just end. Like the Octarius War ended, and nothing. Nothing more from that. The Tyranids are not doing anything special, even though they've beaten the orcs. It's just there. They're in a cordon. There's a bunch of dead worlds. They can't get out. That's about it. Some plastic, some paper, and air. Oh, I wonder if they're in Nottingham opening this live. Gravis Librarian, Jump Pack Librarian? They could just do a remake of the current basic Librarian. A lot of that's going to be like, oh wow, it's a model that we already had and is perfectly fine because it's only a few years old. Okay, what do we got?
Armageddon, the war world. Its soil is
All right, they're going to replay the trailer.
salted by the blood and sweat of generations.
Yeah, it's going to be the exact same trailer as the Decepticon. They're just redoing it as an introduction.
War is all that remains. It
I'm
rises
assuming
from
that's
the
Sergeant.
dust
I think that was a
and
blue
echoes in the
helmet,
sky,
but on a red guy.
promise, a cacophony of endings.
Angry vampire. Next to perfectly calm vampire. Land speeder with the Gatling cannon. Yeah, that just looks like a remake of the land speeder. Land speeder Typhoon had 2 weapons. Or it might just be the one. There's your war boss fighting the captain. They fight here for a moment and then they're
Sanguinius'
separated.
sons, angels of death.
There'll be no new Blood Angel releases in this edition. Perhaps. Perhaps.
Our veins burn with his wrath. Our twin hearts hammer with his rage.
Angry.
War is all that we know.
I still think the 9th edition trailer was the best one. Had more gravitas than just some Space Marines and Orcs smushing each other.
This world must hold. There can be no retreat. There can
Yeah,
be
Iron
no
Heel or Shield
mercy.
effect. And I
There
think,
can be no peace.
yeah, when he gets shot at, then like, oh, yeah, there
There
it is.
is only war.
Vampire! Wah! Why is the Space Marine shouting wah and then charging?
Hello everybody, we are live. Welcome to this very special Warhammer 40,000 Armageddon unboxing. My name is Adam. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Eddie.
Absolute pleasure to be here. We have an amazing box set to unbox with you today. The Armageddon box, the launch set for the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. It's got some Orcs in, some Space Marines in, some pretty cool stuff on the back of the box.
back looks
It's
cool,
looking
right?
great. That's new. That's
Okay,
new.
Orcs and Space Marines, unsurprising.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us. I've been keeping an eye on the chat as we've been waiting to begin. It is lovely to have you all here. There's people flocking in from around the world. Let me tell you how it's going to work. For the next 45 minutes to an hour maybe, Eddie and I are going to open this box.
Can you at least
take
hear them
everything out,
okay?
Show you in detail all of the cool Warhammer goodness that's inside of it. And just
Hey,
have
it
a
might
good
not be
time
live,
sort of,
but I think
getting
it will be,
excited
just so
about
they can
the launch
take a
box
couple
for
of
the 11th
questions from the
edition of
chat
Warhammer 40,000.
and then prove
we
that
know a
it's
few things
live.
that are in this box already.
Like,
of
that's
course.
an
We've got some of them
achievement.
previewed on the Warhammer
Grot
community
Week this
website.
week.
We know 5
Oh,
Grots
Grot
coming.
Week, that's what
There's
we're
a
calling what
chaplain
just
we know about, a
happened.
weird boy, some intercessors, some Orc boys, loads of good stuff we know is coming.
Perfect. While we wait for the chat to fill up, and there are thousands of you piling in on YouTube and Twitch, it's nice for everybody at home. Just tell us where you are. The Warhammer community is a global
Also
community,
in my
and it's
chat for
exciting
no
to
reason.
see
Tell me
you're
where
tuning in
you
from.
are, but down
Give
to
your
a
location
country.
A shout out.
I don't need
While
a
I
full
get
address.
The locations.
They could have
falling into the
pre-written
chat.
questions
Eddie,
calling it in.
done any
Yes,
Warhammer
absolutely.
hobby lately?
I have. I've been painting some Warhammer 40,000 things. I've painted some Orcs and some Space Marines. I can't show you them just yet, but we might have a look at the end of this show.
In the
Very
house,
good.
in the
And while you were
walls.
at Adepticon, you played in the event, right?
I did. I
good.
got to play in the championship for Warhammer 40,000 and the team event. I took some Space Wolves, some Dreadnoughts. They did all right.
Fantastic.
How about yourself, Adam? You been painting anything?
Yes,
wow,
so
yeah, we've
I
got the
have.
whole
Perhaps
of
not as much
Europe.
painting as you,
We've
but
got
I've
North
been painting
America.
away on something
We're
in
going
this
into
set.
South
And also,
America.
I've been
We're back
listening
in
to
England. Now we're in
lovely
Scotland, exclusively in
great
Scotland.
audiobook for the first book in the Scouring sequence. I love it. It's
Australia.
great. There's some awesome battles and political intrigue. And
I understand when people say USA. It's when they're saying
the chat
like
has gone wild.
random state. I
can't
don't know where that
possibly,
is.
Shout you all out, but we've got Texas, we've got Sheffield, we've got people really.
Wow,
really big,
Sheffield,
Gunston,
they say.
Nottingham,
That's a
people in
country. That's
Germany,
definitely a
somebody says
country.
Illinois.
The country of
The
Sheffield.
location for this particular event. Georgia, Ireland, Canada, so many people from so many great places. Thank you all for choosing to tune in and spend a little while with us.
Absolutely.
Nice. So, what have we done? We've welcomed you, we've introduced ourselves, we've talked about where you're from. And a little
Okay,
bit
they're
about our
ready
hobby.
to go
Just
for the
time
next
just
thing
get
on the
started.
checklist.
I think we should probably open at the box.
Great. So, this is
Open the
Warhammer
box.
40,000 Armageddon, the launch box for the 11th edition. I have a relatively blunt mold line scraping tool, and I'm going to use this to pop the seal on the back. Nearly show you the front. as I do
Official Warhammer mold line remover tool.
Exactly. It's the
That's
most
the tool
dangerous.
you want to open up your box.
It's the most dangerous item that I can be trusted with live on air. I
That
think
is
it's
true.
fair to
Legal.
say.
Use scissors.
So, There we
Jeez.
go. One box now ready.
It's a hefty
to
box,
open.
isn't it? It's,
It is. Shall we crack it open?
let's do it. Let's do it. Oh,
Oh, we're seeing it from the top, so we can't see the models on the side.
there we go.
Oh, the lid comes
Excellent.
off.
I'll take that lid. Thank you very much.
Well,
So
there's
here we
plastic
are.
in
It is
there.
Absolutely.
We're not seeing
loaded
rulebooks and
with
cards and
frames of
terrain.
miniatures and bases. There's always somebody in chat that says, "What size is the base?" The answer is there's loads of them,
It's
and there's
that
more
big.
bases
They're
somewhere
that big.
further down in.
That big.
Don't worry too much about that. Let's pull out all the frames. Have a quick
Okay,
look at
I wanna
these,
see
and
what's
then
on the
we'll go
side of
through
the
and show you
box.
everything in detail.
We will show you the painted models as well.
Of course we will.
It's not
But-
just going to be plastic.
But if you're like me, you
Yeah,
like
it's
to
grey
open a
plastic,
box
so
and
it's
see
not
all the cool
pre-done in
things that are
red.
it. So where do we begin? This. I
think I see a banner.
The orc things.
I take the orcs. I'm happily
There you go.
take the orc stuff. Yeah. So this appears to be a kit of orc characters, as far as I can tell.
That
There.
is a
So you've
massive
got,
All right, so there's a
you've got a big
character
banner in there.
sprue.
There's a big chopper someone gets. Looks like possibly some kind of orc medical specialist. Okay.
Perfect.
Put
Next
those
out.
down there.
This
Okay.
is a command frame, and it has
A
Space
possible
Marine character,
medical specialist
big
orc
cloak,
boy.
relic shield,
Zerota just
and then an
tipped in.
enormous orc, which is clearly.
Thank you, Zerota.
of War
So
Bar.
we'll put that in the middle if there's a bit of both. That's yeah, nice big chopper.
It's nice to have you here.
So I'll stick this on my side. There we go.
What?
Next up, again, more Space Marines. This is a mix of Gravis armored Space Marines, and then you've got some character models.
All right, so it's these weird
I'll keep this one on my
mixed
side.
kits.
Your turn,
See some
Eddie.
head options
So
in
it's
there as well.
harder
I'm
to
gonna go
make
with
them
whatever
as
this
an
looks like.
individual
This
thing,
appears
and
to
you're
be
going to have
a
like
little orc
awkward
vehicle,
boxes like the
definitely
heroes
on
of the
the kind of
chapter.
speed
So that
freaky
was
end of the
some Gravis
spectrum. We've got
Marines
some
and an
French
ancient
there,
with a
some
banner.
Flyers. I see a chopper. I see some rockets. There we go.
Perfect.
Definitely an orc vehicle.
Yeah,
of some sort there.
I'm
Don't
glad
think
I
we've
can
seen
see
that in
these
the-
sprues held
No,
far
no,
away
that
from
is
the
an
screen.
unrevealed
I'm
thing.
waiting for an
Next, we
article
saw
to
this
pop
guy
up on
Warhammer
Warhammer
Community.
Community
This
actually
is clearly
showing
the
them
Weird
off.
Boy, and he comes in lots of parts. There you go. That's the Weird Boy frame. If you want to have a quick peek at the Weird Boy frame, these crazy halo of wires and
Yeah, very cool model. We have seen that one already, but an excellent model.
Right, see, that one
Those
can at
stars
least
as
be sold separately.
So,
That weird
this
boy.
is pretty obvious what this one is. This frame here is
that a land speeder?
All that causing mayhem.
well.
in
Lots of
the
people
cinematic
speculating
trailer.
if we were going to get a land speeder in this box. We can confirm you do in fact get a land speeder.
That
in
is
this
the
box.
answer to this particular Raven
Good.
fan's prayers.
Land speeder.
Next up,
I have one already.
Space
Came in the
Marines
3rd edition starter set.
Mark 10 power armor. These are in. Go. We'll show you
Some
all
guys-
of these
some
in lots
bits
more
of
detail,
guys in
but we're trying
power
to give you
armor.
the full experience of what it's
Yeah,
like
this is
to
where an
open
article
this
would have
for
just been
yourself.
better.
Oh, here we've already seen some of the Vanguard veterans,
We
right?
have, yeah, we've seen one of the Vanguard
Perfect.
veterans, and obviously they also appeared
Now,
in the
I
cinematic
still
trailer.
just want to see the
Offering
side of
some
that
kind Orc
box.
Walker.
Perfect. Vanguard veterans and what looks to be a Space Marine librarian.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, Space
Orcs.
Marine
I
Librarian.
was going to say, these
Yeah,
two
my turn,
frames
my
are
turn.
identical.
Yeah, that is
and
actually
you
a
can
lot of
have them
small
both in the
parts
same
for a
color.
starter set.
So this is
That is
frame of
surprising.
Orc boys and Gretchen. Lots of some choppers in there, some shooters.
Okay,
lots
yeah.
of
Hey, they're just
head
giving a
options
list
as
at this
well. The
point.
heads are
There's some
separate,
boys
so
and some
a
Gretchen.
little bit of customization
can't see
options
them.
in there as well, and some nice big orcs there. There's some orc knobs in the mix as well. So.
Perfect. And the final frame to come out the box, and a surprise to absolutely nobody, is of course that enormous gun rig that we saw in
Okay.
the video.
Yes, there is an enormous great cannon there.
Calling it the
and
gun rig for
some
now.
Orc Walker, and we'll find out more
So
about
that's the
that.
Orc Walker, the Orc
Perfect.
mech on the
And
Walker.
for the base enthusiast out there, you know who you are. There are 3 more bases. 2 of them belong to the Orcs and one belongs to the Space Marines.
With
if you
such
look down
enthusiasm, he
inside, there is
tells us
now a
that there are
box
bases.
within a box. This is where all of the sort
Right,
of
now the
paper
interesting stuff.
components of Warhammer 40,000 Armageddon live. I will crack it open snugly. Put in there, and it's got some.
All right,
seal
looking
on
at the
it. Before we get to
side, that looks
yeah,
like
yeah,
10
you do
Orc
that while I
boys
do
and
this.
10
Another thing here,
Gretchen.
We've got a sheet of transfers.
Because I'm assuming that the
This is
pictures
a
on the
joint sheet
outside will tell you
between the
what's
Space
actually
Marines
there.
and the Orcs. What you've got in here is a quite nice selection of stuff. You've got a bunch of Space Marine chapters and a bunch of Orc clans. The
Transfers,
Space Marine
good.
chapters are all
Standard
ones that
transfers.
are
No, we
taking
haven't heard a
part
price yet.
in,
And they're not going to
the
give it in a lot
attack
of
on Armageddon,
different.
basically.
Yeah, so the
reinforced
Warhammer
like
Studio have done
currencies.
a really good job here of connecting this launch box to the events that they're depicting on Armageddon. So you have the Ultramarines, the Blood Angels, the Salamanders, the Crimson Fists, and the White Scars, all forces which
Okay.
are sort of prevalent.
So there's
in
4
this,
chapters on there.
operation to reclaim
all
Armageddon.
the ones that are kind of taking the
And then a bunch of Orc
forefront, in Operation
glyphs.
Imperator,
See,
which
there's
is
an
the
actual
attack,
pre-showed off
reclaim
piece.
Armageddon from the
So
Orcs.
we
You've
can
also
actually
got,
see that
some Orc
transfer.
clans in there as well. So Goths, some Evil Suns, some Bad Moons.
and Death Skulls as well, I
And
think.
Death Skulls, yeah. And then some generic ones as well, so you can use for company markings and things that you can do in any chapter of Space.
I always get weirdly excited about the.
Yeah, the
details
Crimson
in
Fists
sets,
are
so
doing
that's,
stuff. Well, I
fantastic.
don't know, a
Right,
new
so
Crimson Fist
I've
refresh. They
busted
could
the,
do.
seals on this.
There's
Let's
really
turn it
only
around,
one
and
character
then-
for the Crimson
and then
Fish.
Here we go. This is all of the paper that you get inside.
Right,
the
Dominatus,
Armageddon
what's that
box.
then?
Rules components, basically.
Exactly. So I guess we start with
So
the
there's our
biggest thing.
chapter
Let's go with the big
approved.
book. Yeah.
Perfect. So this is
Mission deck.
Operation Imperator. This
So that may
is
just be
a
called-
enormous hardback lore book. This is a tome
Oh.
just full of the story.
It's a lore book. Okay.
Of
I was hoping it was a
Like these spoilers
campaign book.
within. This is the story of the Space Marines' mission to reclaim Armageddon.
This is the
it
story,
just
right?
Absolutely packed with.
It doesn't look
stories
packed with
and
lore
art,
because those
a
are
narrative
full-page
that explains the
pictures.
events. There's a gatefold
Those are all
which shows an
full-page
enormous
pictures.
map.
Okay, then we start to get to a little bit of
There we go.
lore.
So
The
this is like
pictures
a
with
proper
like a
old
paragraph
school
of text.
campaign book. It's got more detail on the battle for
The
The
Armageddon.
same campaign
Anywhere-
book,
Yeah,
but
more
this is
detail
also
than
a
we've
lore
ever had
book. It
before.
can't
We've
be
had a
both.
few kind of supplements and campaigns in the past that have gone to Armageddon, but this dives into it in even more detail, and particularly focusing on the forces of the Orcs and the Space Marines. One of the things I really like about it is that in each of the war zones that it features, there is a
Mentions
list of the different
war
Space Marine
zones.
chapters and the different Orc clans that are taking part in the battle. You
Okay.
can see here, you've got Space Marine chapters like the Marines Malevolent, the Angels Eradicant, the Storm Lords
Hey,
Present, the
if
Subjugators.
people really like
So there
those
is a whole
particular
bunch
weird
of different
chapters,
Space Marine
that's fine.
chapters that are taking part
Did
in
other
this,
boxes
as
come with
well
cards
as
too? Last edition had the
Blood
Leviathan
Angels, obviously, who are
cards
leading the charge.
It gives it a real feel of
to
a,
go with the
sort of like
Leviathan
a
starter
historical
set.
recounting of
So the
events.
chapter
Really
approved
quite exciting. And if you
2026 to
look for
27 mission deck
books to connect your
is
army
in
to
this
what games
Armageddon
you're
set.
playing, this feels like just perfect material.
We haven't seen all the
for
books yet.
main
So,
selection.
hey, if you like a lore
It's
book,
absolutely that. It is
That's nice.
a nice big hardback book. There's loads of stuff
if
in
it's
there.
a starter
120
set
pages.
120
to
pages
get
long.
you into the
It's pure
setting,
lore as well.
having a
This is,
short lore book is
absolutely
good.
just loads of background for Warhammer 40,000. Worth saying,
Leviathan
about
was
this book,
basically
this
chapter
is
approved 23,
exclusive
24.
to this
Yes,
box.
basically, yes.
A lot of the other components we're going to go through today will eventually have separate releases individually or in other boxes. You're able to pick them up outside of the Armageddon box. This book, Operation Imperator, is exclusive to this box.
Okay,
You
so
wanna
that
get your hand
book,
on this lovely hardback
The lore
campaign
book is just for the starter set.
Only an
Otherwise, the
Makes
miniatures will
sense.
be sold
Right,
separately in
so
like
next up,
a
delving
beginner's
in, perhaps the
set,
most pedestrian
perhaps.
item, but still extremely useful. This is the assembly guide, and it will come as no surprise to you that this is how you assemble your models.
Are they
It is
push
just,
fit still?
full
I would
colour,
assume they'll
detailed
be push
pictures
fit.
of how to put them together. Full colours are interesting today when most of the
There won't be any
images
codexes in
are
this.
grey because they're unpainted. But here we are, everything you'd expect, along with
There might be
detailed,
a like printed
laboratory
detachment.
photography on what they should look like when they're done.
Yep. Lists obviously the various different options you've got in there.
Oh, that's a good point. There
so
are quite
this
a
has
lot
had
of
holes,
options.
so
Yeah,
they're
so
all
quite a lot of the
100%
Space
push
Marines
fit.
we've shown.
That's a
if there
good
is
assumption
squad
to
leader or
make.
something
Good
that's got
assumption.
an unhelmeted option, there's usually a helmeted option too. Same for the characters. All of the models are also
Okay.
push fit. as
Couple
well.
of head
You
options.
obviously
There we go.
can
They're all
glue
push
them,
fit.
Yep.
but they do go together without glue. If you
As a person who's not
Yeah.
the best model builder,
As they've said,
actually, I find that
like
push
with
fit
last
for this
time
is
and the
really
time
good so
before,
far, so I'm enjoying it.
you don't need glue,
Next
so
up,
the
and this will be
children
of,
can make
enormous
this
excitement
without,
to, people who
licking
really are at
the
the cutting edge of
adhesive.
playing Warhammer 40,000 is the core rules. This one has never been opened. There we go.
Ooh, the core rulebook.
This is the
So
core rules for Warhammer 40,000. It's everything you need
that looks
to
pretty
play
short.
a game of Warhammer 40,000 along with your
A5 scale.
It's a nice compact
Like the,
version of the rules,
say,
so
7th
one
edition.
ideal for taking to a battle with you.
Yep.
Nobody's
This
gonna
is basically
carry even
the
that.
engine that drives the new edition, right? This is the new core rules that interact with your existing codex and all the different detachments and things that will be coming and all the missions. This is how you move, how you shoot, how you
Right,
fight.
so you
This is
take
the thing
that and everything
creates
else,
the
and
game
you
of
just
Warhammer
put it all
40,000. So
It's a
on a
nice convenient
PDF
size as well.
Yeah.
It's
and
not
take
very
a
big
device
case,
like a
whatever, and you
phone.
are good to go. Worth saying also,
I
at
do
this
like
point,
an
the
A5
Warhammer
mission
40,000 app will be being updated in line with the new edition at the
Okay,
time
so
of the
Fire
launch.
Overwatch is still
So
there
you'll
and
be
is
able
one
to
command
use
point.
that to full effect. which is very
Snap
exciting.
shooting is something else. Oh, that's
Right.
like the rule where you hit on
So,
sixes when you snap
next
shoot.
Is this pack here on one side Orcs, on the other side Space Marines, and this is get it open.
Did we see that monsters get tank shock? That would be interesting.
All of the data cards.
Ooh,
and units
crushing
that are
impact.
within the
Good.
box. You wanna spin
That's
that.
an improvement
Yeah,
we've been
I'll take
wanting
it.
for 3
So
years.
obviously, if you
Data
already
cards
have
that are gonna
Space
be
Marine
outdated very
or
quickly.
an Orc Codex, you've got rules for lots of your units already. This will give you
At a land
all of
speed,
the rules.
yeah,
for the
we've
contents
got
of this
Gravis
box,
guys
so
with
you
heavy
can add them into
bolter,
your existing.
Vanguard, veterans,
They're
something
very
else.
portable, nice size, but big enough to read. So very useful.
They're just my jam because you
Yeah.
can keep them on the side of
Orc
the table while you're playing.
boys.
The rules for these will also be in the Warhammer 40,000 app, but if you like to lay your army's rules out in front of you in a little line,
I mean, they should be in the app because the app can be updated, whereas these will be outdated very quickly.
Right.
So far, it is looking like
put that
less
out of the way.
models
So
than
then there are
previous
two
sets.
more boxes of cards, and these are massive. Which one do you want to do
Oh,
first?
let's do chapter proof first. I think.
Great. There we go. I'll get it out.
Okay, you did not go for the chapter
Break it.
approved.
Not to. There we go. So chapter approved cards. Tell us.
Still
about
struggling to get it out.
So
Okay.
chapter approved will be a familiar concept for those of you who already play lots of games of Warhammer 40,000. This is basically the mechanism for creating missions.
Some little tokens
in this
there.
edition of Warhammer 40,000, much as it has
But are
been
not
for previous
objective
editions.
markers?
The difference with this chapter approved deck is that this is the tool you use to create any mission for any game of Warhammer 40,000,
For
not
any
just
game.
for match play. This is for all types of games. So if you want to play a very narrative game, or if you want to play a very competitive game at a tournament or something like that, this is still the same deck that you use. Narrative has been weaved all the way through it. We've talked a little bit about that already on the Warhammer community site in terms of how this
There we are. Mission
creates
deck
very narrative
26-27.
games and how armies play into that. But this is the tool you need to create great missions.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes complete with a little chapter-approved booklet which explains.
Well, we'll see how that actually pans
how to
out.
use it. So everything there you need to start using this to sort of power your game.
And you'll be using that a lot. So
Yeah, well,
obviously
probably
what you've
this,
got here,
the skulls
as
are
well as
used
all
to
those
mark
models,
objective
is all
terrain.
the rules
So you
stuff
remember,
need
you're
to
not just
start playing Warhammer
cross-referencing with
40,000.
the
Combine that with
setup
your
card.
codes, with the
Yeah,
data sheets, and
right out
you're
of the
away.
gates,
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a box definitely designed for people who just want to start
Yeah,
playing.
markers to
straight away.
designated terrain piece.
And then finally, Dominatus, another pack of cards, a very hefty-looking
Right.
card box. And Dominatus is something just a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
what's Dominatus?
the chapter approved mission deck is what you use to create missions. This deck is what you use to create campaigns. So there's been a few different
Ooh.
ways that we've spelled out how you might want to do a campaign in the past.
Campaign deck.
This is a deck-driven campaign system for Warhammer 40,000. It works alongside chapter approved, generating those missions, and it allows you to link your battles together in a narrative way. So this is great if you
Interesting.
want to play a weekend of gaming,
Or link loads together with your gaming club.
yeah, if
or
you've got a
whatever,
gaming club and
absolutely.
you get to play a game every week.
Not
and you want
necessarily
to kind of
Crusade,
feel
but
like
more
they're part
like
of a continuous
the
system.
campaign
This
books.
is a deck-driven campaign system, and it effectively takes away all the paperwork, all of the logistics of having to run a campaign, and puts it into a deck-based system. So you can link your battles together very easily and feel like you have a very
They might have
compelling
dropped Crusade.
connection between the
I
battles.
mean, they shouldn't.
Absolutely.
At least it'll be
Dominatus
compatible
deck
with,
also comes
last
with its own
edition,
booklet,
because the
which is
units are.
essentially everything you need to know.
But they're keeping up with the
to use
campaigns,
it
which
to
we
spread
assumed
your
they would,
campaign
because
together.
they've just
And when
done
we say it's a
4 or
simple
5
system, we're talking
campaign
about,
books
8 pages long
in the past few
and
months.
between these and your chapter approved cards, you are away and playing a linked narrative experience of Warhammer 40,000.
And you can play quite
I
compact
mean,
campaigns as well. They only need to be like
the
3
chapter
games long
approved
if you want
deck
them
will
to
be
able
used
to
at
be
tournaments.
great long
The
things, and there's a
campaigns
huge amount of
unlikely to be
replayability
used at
in the
tournaments.
So all of that is within the
Yeah, a more
Warhammer
casual
40,000
version of Crusade,
Armageddon
but that's
box
just
set.
a campaign.
We've shown you all of the frames in a little bit of detail.
If you look at something like
Shall we
the
have a
Maelstrom
good
campaign
look
book,
at
that's
the
a
models
very
themselves?
easy to
Let's
do
do it. I
campaign.
think we should start with my favourite half of the box.
So it's Orc time,
Orc
right?
time, yeah.
Perfect.
Now, we haven't seen points for anything. But... Orcs. Okay, now we're actually going to see the models. That means 10 Gretchen, 10 Orc boys. That's a knob, I think that's a knob. Orc knob. Weird boy. Ooh, a knob with a banner. Knob with war banner. There's your war boss. Okay, that's a little different to the monopose one we've already seen. There's your dock. That's a war buggy, war track, as we had in 2nd edition. And there's your big walker buggy thing. Not buggy. Mech walker. That land speeder looks very land speederish. Yeah, War Track is back. I still have mine. It never went away. It had Legends rules from
We
2nd
are
edition
back
through
with
to
the Orc
now.
contents from Warhammer 40,000 Armageddon. A flurry of activity to deploy all here on
Yeah,
the table
no
in front of us.
terrain.
This
No
is all of the
terrain
Orc models
pieces,
that you
no
find
terrain card.
inside the Armageddon launch box.
It's disappointing.
And it is awesome. So many cool things to talk about. We'll go through each unit in turn, give you guys at home the lowdown on what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Should we start with the smallest of the Orcs?
Yeah, this is a properly great box of Orcs. Worth saying before we dive into the whole thing, effectively what you've got here is a combat patrol worth of Orcs.
And then
a
combat
bunch more
patrol
stuff.
worth of
Yeah,
Orcs,
absolutely.
as
Works
they've been
out
doing.
something about 700 to 800 points worth of stuff. So it's a fairly sizable chunk of an army.
Yeah, I
If
think you're right,
this
that the
is
War
your
Track will be
first
only be
foray
in
into
this
Orcs,
box
I think a
or
lot
a
of people,
Special
are getting
Heroes
quite
of the
excited about
War
Orcs at the moment,
box.
rightly
Because
so.
of
They're
where the
absolutely
sprues are
cool.
going to be.
I think a lot of this is a great start to an army. You've got some really solid units. If you are bolting this onto an existing Orc army, and I've got a fairly sizable Orc army at home, there are lots of very cool units in this that add new
Legends
tools
rules to
into the
still
mix. So
there.
It's a great box of Orcs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Legends rules are
Somebody
legends
called Darkblade
rules.
in the chat was saying that the Grotz
Combat
are waste of
Patrol
plastic.
when
They're
starter
absolutely not.
boxes
Grotz
have
are
always had
so
more. I
cool.
know.
Every
But
war boss
They have
is
said
planned.
for like
so we're starting
last
with the
edition.
lowest rung.
Oh yeah,
of Orc
you dropped a
Society
few
here.
units
This
and
is
then
the
you made the
Gretchen
Combat
unit. We've
Patrol.
seen some of these already. There is a unit of 10 Gretchen in the box.
Okay, 10
are
Gretchen,
very
no run
useful
turner.
unit in Warhammer 40,000 Orc armies. You can.
So there
push
you
them
go, you're
forward to
losing
take
a model
objectives
already.
without worrying about
And
any
they're
of your.
incredibly cheap to
They're
use
very,
as well,
very cheap in
absolutely.
terms of points, and you can throw them away willy-nilly and not worry too much about it. In terms of the miniatures, there are some really lovely little
there only
throwbacks.
no,
in
there's
this
more than
box
5
to
poses,
classic,
surely.
Absolutely so, yeah.
Gretchen.
Oh no,
Some
then
of the
again, it
miniatures
is
are very
a
reminiscent of some of the things
monopose
you
thing.
saw in
I
second
think these
and third
Gretchen
There's
look
points
alright
helmets
as
there, which
Gretchen.
you
Yeah,
come into, don't they?
absolutely. And
Absolutely.
also some of the weapons are quite reminiscent
You
of
hush
the
about
Morgan
legends.
era
You use your
Grotz.
It's
legends
almost
rules.
like
I
it's the greatest
insist.
hits of sort of Grotz through the ages, isn't
It is, yeah, they look great.
I like it. So anyway, we've
We're
had
not going to
50
dwell on
parts
Grotz
per
for too long,
model.
though.
So
Hopefully
we
they're
go
like
more exciting
2
things. We go
parts
up a
push
level.
fit.
Let's go up,
Orc
let's
them,
go
and
up a
look
level.
at the Orc boys. There are 2 units of 10 Orc boys in this set. You can see them.
But it
here
might
on the
be
screen.
2
They
lots
look
of 5.
fantastic.
Okay,
Essentially, it's
only
9
10 Orc boys.
and then a boss knob to lead them.
Yeah, so
With a
Orcs
boss
are
knob.
the absolute
Right.
mainstay backbone of an Orc army. This is a brand new unit. Every model is new. The thing that we know about the new Orc
That
unit
looks like a decent
already is
Orc.
that Orcs now come with a slugger and a chopper and a shooter. So immediately into
Oh,
the
2
new
units
edition,
of
they're
10,
going
right,
to be
okay.
great in shooting, great in combat, a more flexible unit. They have a boss knob in each unit. The boss knobs have slightly different weapons.
Are
There's
they
a
going
combi
to
rocket
look
on one and a
basically the
custom
same
shooter on the
though?
other. It's
Is it
worth
like 2
saying,
sets of
one
basically
of
the
big
same
requests,
models?
of Orc players is the combi rocket and the combi shooter now have different stat lines. The combi
Get
rocket
mad about
is
prices
a
or
real
something.
rocket rather than being a kind of mortal wound dealing thing. And
Okay, that's a
combi shooter
different
just
boss
gives you loads
knob.
of shots.
The chat absolutely loves
Big
these.
shooters.
I
They,
couldn't
they
agree
are
more.
really
twin
cool.
shooter.
I mean, every single
Combi
model
shooter.
is like a wonderful character for model. Some of them have got like
But
weird
it's the
squigs coming off
same
belts. There's
body,
some
the
stick
same
bombs in the mix.
chainsword.
They do
Just
have
change
the
one of the arms.
explosives keyword, so grenades effectively.
Yeah.
So
Every
it's
single one is a
nearly
character.
2 identical
What I'd like
squads.
to do is pull the knobs out of the unit for a second and just show you.
No, I
them
think
side
they've
by
always had
side.
that broader shoulder.
Orc.
That was been the look of
Get
them
a
for a
nice
while.
close up because I just think these are really impressive looking models.
They- Yeah, the Orc knobs are very large models. I think they're almost as big as some of the war bosses
Yeah,
we've
absolutely.
seen in previous editions.
and the
previous
fact that you've
incarnations.
got two such characterful looking options there is really great as well. So
Yeah.
these
Yeah,
are
looks
the Orc
okay.
boys, as I said before.
That looks like a 40 millimeter for the boss knob,
knob,
so everyone's ready to rebase, right?
It's really good, right?
Course.
They fight really well. They're tough. The thing that really
Start to
makes
set
Orcs work
things
is when
up,
you start
push
adding
fit.
characters
Everything
into the
else
unit.
is
It gives them lots of
multi-part,
cool abilities. There's a bunch of
monopose,
stuff
but
in
you
this
need
box,
glue.
that can do that, and we can have a look at a few of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up here near the front, I'm moving to the front. There we go. Fantastic view here. This is the Orcs Big Boss, which is sort of a new thing inside the Orc force composition. Right?
All right,
Yeah,
so big boss
at
is
the
the
moment
lieutenant.
In your Orc armies,
Right.
you have your war boss, but then
Now all the
underneath
Orc
him,
boys
you
are going to be on
haven't really got
32,
any
and then the
other
boss
characters
knob's on
that
40
fill in the
millimeter
sort of
because they have
boss
2
level
wounds, of
role.
course.
So the big boss is
So an Orc's
basically
big
like
boss.
A war
This is
boss in
sounding
waiting.
very
He's the
Warhammer
next
Fantasy.
level down on the rung. He is the enforcer of the war boss's will across the rest of your army.
Okay, so you've got a
and he is an
Orc
absolute
lieutenant.
brawler.
Kind of hoping that the war boss might not.
Not
make it
enough
through the
Space Marine
battle.
lieutenants.
If the
have
war
an
boss
Orc
gets on the wrong end
lieutenants.
of a power fist or something, he has to step up to take the war boss's place. He wouldn't be too sad about it. But in game
If you want a
terms,
40
he is
millimeter
a really
base,
useful little
you
piece
can
because you put him
also
in
just
amongst,
take an old
having your
objective
boys or your
marker and
knobs,
glue
like
the
that.
base to that,
And
because that's
he
40
makes the unit
millimeters.
hit harder. He himself is
a great idea.
a wrecking machine in combat, but he gives the whole unit +1 to charge and also sustained hits. So you can imagine that on a big unit of boys or a
Okay.
big unit of knobs. or
Sustained
something,
hits and +1 to
charging into
charge.
enemy
Well,
units
you're not
would
going to
make
use
an
him in
absolute mess.
Warhorde then,
Somebody
because
said,
you get
"Is he
sustained
smaller than
hits
the Orc
anyway.
boys?" And the answer is no. He's an absolute unit.
He is.
Let me stick an Orc boy
an
alongside
absolute
this guy,
unit.
and you'll get a sense for.
Mega Knob
Oh,
refresh?
He
Yeah, I think that'll
stands
be
a little
coming.
bit taller than the knob leaders in each of those boys units.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, if we've had the big boss, we should do the guy on your side, Eddie, which is the banner knob.
Yeah,
Here we go.
another one of the
All right, the
leading
war banner.
units, in the Orc force. This is the banner knob. War banners, of course, have been part of Orc
Yeah,
armies
war banners there.
for
War
kind of
banners
since
already
Orc armies
exist in
started.
Legends.
Every war boss needs to have a war banner somewhere so the boys know what they're following. This is a beautiful model. If we talk about the model first of all,
That's what excites me,
chunky
is the way
face.
that the design on the banner, in particular, lets you really customize it to your own Orc force, right? So it's got sculpted on details you can see there, but there's the spaces left that you can use the decals from the decal sheet.
Right, the
to
knob with
figure
war
out
banner
your
at the
own
moment,
plan
you
and
can
give them
plant
the
it,
sort of markings
and
reflecting
then
what will reflect your
the
own
unit
Orc
gets the
force,
benefit of the war.
force elite.
Yeah,
as
so
if you
this one
called the
here
war
that's been
once
painted by the
per
heavy metal
game.
team beautifully uses the
And he has a
decals,
4+
uses the
invulnerable
Grotz
save,
decals,
objective
so this
control
is proper
5
the
if you're on an
heart of
objective.
Gazgul's wider war,
There you go.
Survivor Armageddon.
That's the
But
current
you
war
also
banner
have a
rules.
nice big flat space there to use other decals, so you can bad moon, or you can paint your own, and then you've also got some sculpted on bits. In terms of the game, this is a very powerful piece. It has the support rule. What that basically means is that if you have a unit, you can have a leader unit in it, something like a war boss
so it's
or
a
big
support
boss.
character.
You can also have a support model,
Like a
something
lieutenant.
like a banner knob, so you can have 2 characters in the unit at the same time. That gives you access to loads of really cool combos. You can have one of each. The combos that this guy puts onto your units is that it gives the unit a 5-up invulnerable save. So basically, they're
You
so
get a 5-up
inspired by the
invulnerable save,
presence
kind of like
of
being in the
Shrugging
war.
off bolt of wounds.
yeah, so it's by
My
the presence of the war banner,
goodness.
they just shrug off.
It's
even,
like the war banner
debilitating lethal
currently
hits.
is.
But
That's only once per game. But you also get the extra
gives
attacks
them
and the
+1
advanced
toughness.
charge.
So that unit of even basic boys is going to be shrugging off even things like heavy bolter fire very easily.
So I'm guessing that you won't be able to have that and the medic in the
stick
same one because they'll be
both
both
is
support. So you won't be able to get a 5-up invulnerable and a 5-up feel no
One
pain
probably stands behind your war boss.
Absolutely,
in battle.
Out of trouble, but near the front lines.
Something like
in
that.
your 2 lots of
next
10
up
orc
then,
boys.
let's show the Pain Boy. This is essentially a battlefield medic / doctor for your orcs.
I like
Yeah,
the
I
last
think-
pain boy.
I think medic is a,
with the
is a
big
generous
claws.
term. So I think first off, the model is very fun, right? So this is, I think, the first time it's a plastic pain boy. You can kind of see already from the model what he kind of does. He
I don't
kind
think the
of
tube
mends
is
your orcs
necessary.
If they get
Sort
shot,
of.
reattaches arms and heads and things if they get blasted off. He comes with
Orthodontist.
a Grot Orderly. This
I like
is
the Grot
11th
Orderly
Grot in the
better.
box. This is a really
That's
fun
fun.
model. I think the Grot Orderly is one
And
of my favourite
essentially,
things.
he's
in
a
the set.
token really for your force, isn't he? Because he has an ability to use him.
I think you'll find plenty of people who
in
want
game terms, what
orcs.
the Pain Boy
And if
does,
you are an
another
orc player,
support
there'll be
model, so
plenty of
again, a model you
Space
can
Marine
put
players
into
that
a boy
may
unit
want
or
the
an
starter
unit
set stuff.
alongside
Maybe.
something like a
We
war
haven't
boss
seen
or
the
big
starter
boss.
set stuff
He
for
gives
the
unit
Space
Feel
Marines.
No Pain 5-up.
There you go.
Good on your
Same as
already
we've
very
got now.
tough
5-up
orcs.
feel no pain.
The Grot Orderly that's with him is effectively a once-game ability where you can bring back
resurrect
bodyguard
models?
units into...
Yep, so exactly the same
regular
rules as
units.
currently.
So once a game, you
But
can get
may
some
not
boys to
have
stand back up
the
again.
super
You guys- I
Urty
assume
syringe.
you are
No, what am I
stitching-
saying?
stitching
That looks like a
limbs back
very
on at that
Urty
point, or
syringe.
putting squigs into empty
Or maybe
brain-
the
brain
Grots run
cavities.
off to get some spare parts and he's just come back with them, something like that.
Yeah, so here they are at the front of the force here. Should we do orc for scale? We've
Yeah,
done it
he's
every
about
other
the same
time.
size as the boy.
Yeah,
Maybe
need a
a little bit
Biofagus
bigger.
with
But
their
he's
own
not there
little
for his bulk. He's there for his
guy
his think
to
you know
face
what.
off against
He's
that.
also got a kind of Urty syringe.
There we go.
Which is
The
actually
Urty syringe is
fairly-
still there.
fairly solid in combat.
Which
It's
makes
only
him
got
one of the
attack,
best
but it does
assassins
have,
in the game.
Anti-infantry and precision.
It's
which is
got
pretty
precision
good.
still.
Kind of,
Yep, that's why he's
on
Every now and
An
again,
assassin.
you will kill something very valuable.
'Cause you can do
next up,
mortal
We've seen
wounds.
this guy already on WarhammerCommunity.com, but this is
an
the
extra attack,
Weird
one
Boy,
extra attack.
A really incredible looking miniature. It's so redolent of artwork.
And
that we've
if
seen,
you wound
and
with it and it
embodies
has
the
anti-infantry
war
4+,
energy that follows the armies around.
Yeah, we've already seen this guy.
Then-
We also saw him in the cinematic
How does he
trailer.
do?
He does exactly what you'd hope a Weird Boy does. The model is
D6
great.
mortal
In game
wounds.
terms, he has the jump, which which allows you to pick up one of your Orc units and teleport it through the power of the Orc gods. He also can blast enemy units with psychic energy, and that becomes more powerful.
So he's
more
still got
orcs
the
are around
jump.
him as well.
Same as before.
That's kind of how they've always worked. They carry on working that way.
You see how the
and
data
difference
sheets
now
are going to
is
be
an amazing
very nearly identical. 10th
And
edition
there
to
you see at
11th
the front,
edition.
I've done it with every other one. So orc for scale, there we go. Him stood next to a boy. He's got a heroic rock to stand on.
Maybe
but
you
even
can
so,
have
he's a
this
substantial-
guy, and also no, you probably won't be able to get
last
the
of
orc
sort of infantry
lieutenant in the same
things
squad,
in
so you won't
this
be able
force
to do
is,
the
of
jump
course, the
and then make a
leader of
charge
the
with
orc
+1.
throng. Here we have
You'll have to use
our
one of the
war
other
boss,
things, like
really mighty looking
Warhorde.
model, worthy of leading the war.
So I'm
Yeah,
assuming that
it's a big
Warhorde will
model, this
change
guy,
once the
so I
Orc
think
Codex
standing a little
comes
bit
out.
taller than even some of the current Orc war bosses we've had in the
Right, so there's
past.
your
This guy
monopose
comes
war
with a
boss,
custom
which is
shooter and a
different to
custom
the
chopper, and
multi-part
as you would
one we've
imagine as well, he
seen
gives a
coming
bunch of
soon.
buffs to his unit. They get +1 to their hit rolls, and he gets a bunch of extra rules when the war is active. One of the things worth calling out about
Codex,
this
I would
model's
expect.
rules
I mean, this is going to
at the
come out in
moment, when you
like
take an Orc war boss, a lot of the time
end
people
of
put the
June.
power
All about
claws
the
on
power
them.
claw,
Yeah, it's all
yeah,
about power
absolutely.
claw because
and
you
then
get,
Codex come out in
extra
September.
strength
That's
and
how it
good
worked
AP,
like the
good
last
damage.
6
The
years.
custom chopper takes advantage of one of the new rules in the new edition of Warhammer 40,000.
Big
which
boss,
is
Weird
Cleave.
Boy,
Cleave
War Boss are all
basically
leaders,
gives
but
you
only 2 units
blast
to
or
lead.
extra attacks
Yeah,
for
well,
big units. It
yeah.
makes him very,
There's no
very
knob
good
unit,
at
is there?
chopping through kind of medium level infantry,
Just
things
the
like
2
Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines,
knob
Necrons, that sort of stuff.
characters.
So I think it makes the custom chopper a very appealing choice, even versus some of the very lethal weapons.
Yeah, this case was
Another
the
one taken.
war boss with a
the
big
chat
chopper,
absolutely
not with a
loving the
power
wars,
claw.
especially the war bosses get, and the Paintboy as well, getting some real
for
praise.
scale. You get a sense.
Yeah, so here you
this
go.
is almost.
I don't think they
twice as
said
high
use
as
the
Orc
blast
Boy.
keyword in
Maybe
melee,
next
just
to
that
one
he
of
can
his,
blast
one of his
through
mobs. He
heavy
really
infantry,
is an absolute bruiser.
as in kill them well.
Yeah, fantastic. Really great leader for your
Again,
Orc.
a nice big banner on there as well that takes advantage of the transfers.
Well, exactly.
if
All
you
those
want it.
decals are going to... Oh, I nearly stuck him in with the boys.
Don't do that.
I mean, he
Okay.
could lead them, I suppose. Right, so we've covered all of the infantry units, but there's still more to go. Let's look at the first of the vehicles with this force, which is the war track.
Okay,
So
yep,
this
basic
is
war track.
a returning unit for Orcs. They've had war tracks in the past. They had war tracks back as far as 2nd edition, I think. This is a
Yes, they
fast-moving
did.
Orc
I got
fire
one then.
support vehicle. It's a bit upgunned since its last incarnation. It comes with a custom shooter, but also a rocket launcher, and that's really where
Yeah,
the damage
it had a
comes out of
rocket
this
launcher
thing.
before.
Rocket launcher, quite a tasty number of attacks. D3 plus 3 attacks. strength
Ooh,
10 and
D3 plus 3
damage.
attacks rather
Pretty
than
solid.
like
And it's
D3.
very good at popping things like elite infantry, and also you can punch up into even vehicles and things
It's
like that.
strength 9, so you
kind
can
of accompany
sometimes hurt
things
some
like your
vehicles.
Speedwar, your bikes, that sort of thing, and just adds some
Remember, there's
pretty
5
respectable fire
characters.
support to your fast-moving Orc elements.
Yeah, absolutely. The model itself is obviously fantastic. I'm going to show you, I'm going to very
2 of them will
carefully-
support
I'm
and
very
3 of them will be
nervous holding
leaders.
our models. See all these little
I think.
dints inside the footplate that the
But even then, you can only have 4
knob on the
between
back
2
is
squads of
standing
10
on.
boys.
Those I'm matched.
Yeah, realistically, it's another
Boots,
buggy.
just give them some
Ooh,
extra
okay.
stability. I've been looking at this kit trying to work out all the secrets of it. One of the things I wanted to do was, I'm old enough and grey enough that I remember when war tracks first emerged and we hunted
Show a
down an
cool
original
war
war
track.
track, and I just wanted to put it next to it for posterity's sake, because it's like, I remember seeing that original war track come out and thinking it was just the bee's knees and super cool, and it's still
Yeah.
absolutely charming. But the new one is
The one I've
such
got
a
the
go. I
rocket
think really
launchers,
does
but
show
yeah, that
the-
looks
the
near
way that
identical.
the miniatures design
So
team
you
of the Warhammer
don't
machine
need
have
to
just
buy a new one.
evolved
Just
their
get that
skill set
old
and the
one that you
technology
obviously
available to them
have
to
from
make
like
incredible
Gorkamorka
miniatures.
in
And this
1998.
war track just embodies all of that.
Yep.
It's not the centerpiece
It's not,
of the Orc
no.
throng, however. I'm going to carefully put it to the back.
Might be.
The
Yeah, where's the
biggest
Scorcher
thing, the
version?
biggest gun.
Where's the
is
war
absolutely
track?
the
If that's the
big
war
mech
track, where's the war
Dacaric.
truck?
So this
Or the other
does
one.
exactly
War
what you think
bike?
it does by looking
War
at it.
quad?
It is an Orc mech's prize
War
possession.
buggy, that's what
It
it's
is
called.
an enormous
The war buggy.
walking
That was the other
cannon,
kind. That had 4 wheels.
piloted by a big mech.
Okay,
you saw it
big
in the
mech
cinematic trailer,
Dacaric.
blasting things out of the sky and blasting through space.
That's
Marine
the
forces.
appropriate
It has a
term.
formidable amount of firepower in the
Don't
game.
know about the
It's got a
legs. That,
blitz cannon
no, okay, the legs
and
look
a set
okay.
of
We've
rocket
got the,
launchers.
in
blitz cannon
Transia
kicks
phrase,
out a
missiles
whole
just
bunch
under
of
the
shots,
canopy.
heavy and sustained ones, so surprisingly accurate for an Orc shooting unit. It also gets extra shots when it shoots into smaller enemy units, so anything that's not a monster or a vehicle, you get a bunch of extra shots. The
Okay,
rocket
so you get
launchers
extra
underneath
shots
it as well
against
also get
isn't that how
some
blast
very
works?
respectable firepower too.
Give it blast.
And then the whole thing is on a very durable frame because the big mech has also brought along a force field, basically.
Yeah, so on his back. you
Oh
can
yeah,
see
we
here
saw
on
the
this
force
picture,
field
he has
generator
his,
in the
force
trailer.
field projector to protect him. The model is just replete with details that are worth talking about. I love all the cabling that hangs underneath it, the sort of ramshackled nature of the Orcs. I'm going to spin it carefully around and show you my.
Yeah, if it's good at
favourite
killing
weird
infantry,
vehicle,
that's a
which is the
very
absolute
standard
Orky
Orc thing, but it can do it at
indifference to health and
range
safety.
rather than at
He's
combat,
literally
so it's
flanked either
different.
side of him with these enormous Prometheum tanks, which are totally exposed to enemy fire. When I spin it back round and you look for those red bits, like he is absolutely
Very durable.
around.
Oh, you haven't
Yeah,
considered the no
it
watts of
might
the
get
force field,
higher.
though,
Might be
that's
like
the problem.
toughness 8.
Well, I
I
guess
think
so, and
toughness
it better
8
work,
for something
otherwise
looking
it's
like that.
trouble. This is firepower on legs, and I absolutely love it. I've bought some props in. Somebody in the chat has called me out and said that that's not the original war track, by the way. And you're right, that is a Gorkamorka era war track.
couldn't find the original one.
If you imagine, the Warhammer archive is like going into something from like a spy movie and looking through thousands of models on shelves.
Didn't I say it was the
I found
Gorkamorka
first
version?
Really old war track. I could used that. So fair play, good eyes. You score 1 nerd point. Here we see some other
People getting internet
walkers.
points.
So we have a killer can, a death
War
Dread,
track was one of the
and
first
then
models you ever
stood
painted.
next
Nice.
to the Dacaric.
So it's
Gives you a sense
even
of its
bigger
place
than a
within the
Death
sort of
Dread.
Orc walking things pantheon.
Absolutely. You could imagine that the Dacaric works perfectly well.
I mean, the
alongside
toughness of
any
an
army
Orc
marching alongside
Death
your
Dread
boys,
is like
but it
toughness
fits in
9.
very nicely if you have a Dread War, if you've got lots of Death
And it's
Dreads,
got
lots of
8
killer cans,
wounds,
you can
yeah.
imagine if you
So
have an
I
Orc
expect
mech
this to
who
have, sure,
particularly
maybe
likes building dreadnoughts
about the
that he would
same.
want to
Might have a
accompany them into
lower
battle,
armor
and the way
save,
he
like,
could do that
it's only a
is
3+
in the back
save.
of, one of these Dacaric.
But it's got loads of wounds, like
So
10 wounds.
we have essentially, I think, shown you the Orcs. There are a few questions about how the Orcs scale with some of the other things in this set. I'll keep a few of these to the side so that when we show you the Space Marine half of things, I can do some size comparisons.
I'm just going to sweep all that off the table now.
Let's have a look now at my favourite half of the Armageddon box set, the Space Marines.
All right. Space Marines, Space Marines. Yeah, those are some Blood Angels. We've got a guy crouching. That's one we've seen in the air. Okay, we've got some people on foot. That's one with a two-handed sword. That might be a different piece. There's these heavy bolters. Okay. There's your captain. On a tactical rock. Some intercessors that are not tactical marines. Sergeant has a chainsword, as I said. Librarian. Ancient with a banner. There's your chaplain. So we're going to have 4 characters to the orcs. Like 5 characters, 6 characters. That's their land speeder there. That looks like a very fragile piece to hold it up by just some smoke. Very loud.
That was the fastest set change you've ever seen in your life. We have placed in front of us now the Space Marines half of Warhammer 40,000 Armageddon. Yeah, let's just neaten up some of these units. I am stoked. I absolutely love Space Marines. I've loved them for such a very long time, and this is a wonderful way.
So we've got 10 not tactical Marines.
Army or
there's your 3 characters in the centre. Ancient on the side.
There's a lot here to talk about.
5 Vanguard veterans.
Eddie, first of all, overall impressions?
That's a lot of weird guns on that land speeder.
This is effectively
and then your 3 heavy guys.
Hits, right? So you've got your solid battle line unit in the intercessors there. You've got some fast-moving assault things. You've got your kind of devastating.
Yeah, that's about 20 Space Marines.
With the Gravis heavy bolter
that
troops.
Does seem a bit
You've
short.
got a great vehicle there to give you some fire support, and you've got all the classics in terms of the Space Marine commanders. There's the captain, librarian, the chaplain, and of course the ancient. So this is a great start to a Space Marine army. Some beautiful models.
Wonderful. So let's start with the most straightforward of Space Marine units, if straightforward can ever be applied to a Space Marine, and that would be our intercessors.
Yeah, so this is the Intercessor Squad. They are the
22 models.
Love. The key difference really with this box is the difference and the inclusion of some older armor marks and some older bits into the kit as well. But
some older armor marks.
Returning features. So you've got a Space Marine with an Auspex there, all of the touches you'd expect, like the purity seals.
Yeah, you've got like 2 Mark 7 faceplates.
And relics and various bits and pieces around. One of my favourites, this guy here actually, now he's perfect timing. He has his purity seal parchment wrapped around his
various kinds of like bolter boxes.
There as well.
So I think we're keeping up it doesn't matter what kind of bolt rifle you've got, they're all the same.
And you're seeing more of those classic space elements being added into the armour.
Guy whipping out a pistol.
For example. I love intercessors.
I've never liked that style of bolt pistol. The original bolt pistol was totally fine.
Alongside their battle brothers, I can't wait to get my hands on.
That's an okay sergeant.
Just on his
got a chainsword, got his bolt gun. That's the quintessential Space Marine.
That is a recurring feature across lots of the models in this set.
And on the decal sheet.
And on the decal sheet, this basically the Space Marines that take part in the Armageddon campaign are allowed to wear this badge. Other than that badge noting them as part of the force retaking Armageddon, the models in this set are chapter agnostic, so you can paint them as any chapter that you like.
They don't have to paint them red. You can paint them as Ultramarines if you so wish, as they had in the trailer that we just saw again.
Also an excellent way to start a brand new Space Marine army.
Yeah, so I saw a question pop up in the chat which said, are the shoulder pads attached to the arms? Yes, they are. There's no sculpted detail that delineates any.
Okay, the shoulder pads are attached to the arm, but there's no like chapter symbol on them. They're all transfers.
These are push-fit models, so everything you'd expect from an easier build kit before. These are the ones.
Yeah, there's one with a tiny knife.
For my money, is perfect because
I mean they look perfectly fine as intercessors if they'd come out
pieces on them and then using them.
8 years ago.
You got a few options.
These would have been like the most amazing unit.
The majority of these.
Yeah, they sort of have those sort of guide pegs, but snip those off and you can change.
Yeah, you could quite happily swap the heads around with these.
The sergeant, I think.
The sergeant, you have an armored head. Basically, I think every Space Marine has
a couple of spare heads.
An unhelmeted head in the set. If you don't want to paint faces because you want to paint them faster, like I do,
or you just care about not getting shot in the face.
That's true. You can. There's
right. So anyone that's got a bare head also has a helmeted option.
Add in some
if you want
flavorful pieces as well. If you've got some spare Black Templar bits or Space Wolf bits, so
that's why.
Yeah, they're slightly more interesting intercessors.
Perfect. Right. So that is.
But I don't think that means the current intercessor box is going to go away.
You should look at, and these are a contender for the most exciting thing for me. These are the Space Marine Eradicators. the front while we talk about what you can see on the screen.
So they're eradicators with heavy bolters.
We've seen eradicators.
Yeah, they're just
with
called heavy
multi-melters
bolters,
before.
not assault
This is the
bolters.
kind of opposite end of the spectrum in terms of things you might want to kill. These
So
are
hey, it's
eradicators with heavy
eradicators, but
bolters.
instead
They
of
are
having them with
basically
melter rifles,
Gravis
the
armor,
better
Gravis
option,
armor, of
you can
course,
have heavy
very durable.
bolters.
Each one of these is 3
Unless these are
wounding,
damage
up to
3.
6. So they take some killing. In terms of what they do for you in the game, they are very, very good at killing lots of enemy infantry. You know what heavy bolters do, but these guys have an extra.
Okay, one of them is like a
extra little
weird,
trick, which
that
is
looks like a
if you
weird
target
Gravis
an enemy
face, but
unit
it's also a
that's
Mark
not monster
7.
or a vehicle,
See the guy on
they
the
get
right,
blast.
where he's actually got
Now
a
that
grill?
Basically, it's overlapping
That
detonations.
looks
They just absolutely
odd.
flood a region of the battlefield with heavy bolter shots, and it means that they are incredibly good into
I'm
big
okay
units of
with the
enemies
shields on the gun. It's like the
big
Stern
units.
Guard heavy
If you've
bolter
got
has
3
that
of them
shield.
and you're firing into a
Or
mob
if not the
of
Stern
20
Guard
orcs,
one,
you
the
get an extra 12
Heroes of the
shots.
Chapter.
21 shots at that point.
So you get 19. So you get
Oh,
3 shots each
yep,
for the
right.
heavy bolters.
Yep.
They also have heavy, so you could be hitting on 2s if you wanted to. And they've also got sustained hits. So you can imagine the amount of firepower.
Well, yeah,
this
it's a
unit
heavy
could
bolter, so
land in terms
it's
of
3
hits
shots
into
with
a big
sustained
unit of
hits.
infantry
Yeah,
is
company heroes. Yeah,
absolutely
that's what I
horrifying.
meant.
So you imagine a few units of these.
Yeah, so
and
it's
you could
eradicators
just
with a weapon
remove
option.
An enemy horde army fairly quickly in a few shooting.
So here they are lined up at the front. I mean,
It's heavy bolters.
we've
If you
seen
tried
Gravis
retributors
armor
with
and
heavy
Space
bolters,
Marine
hey,
before,
they're
but they are
okay.
bigger boys than the.
But melter's better.
Not much taller, but wider.
Yeah, there's a lot of chunk there, which is useful for stopping bullets and carrying big guns.
Okay, so,
I really
yeah.
like it.
A few
It's
things
much
to call
like
out about
the
kit.
jump.
Obviously, you have,
What are their names?
Unhelmeted head there. There's an option in the
Inceptors.
box for.
They have a plasma
sergeant
option
to
or they have a
helmet.
bolter option.
I
Now, the
really
bolter
like
option got better this
Mark
edition.
7 helmet.
It's a Mark 7 helmet you get in the box, yeah. I really
yeah,
like.
so
the
there's a
front of the
weird
heavy
Mark 7
bolters.
helmet.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
nice big shield plate on there to add in detail. You can see the heavy metal team already showing off their ability to paint checks
beautiful
far better than
checkerboard
I'll ever
pattern.
be able to on
Yeah.
the front of that one. But if you've got a Space Marine chapter and you want to kind of tailor
Picking
these
an
to
army.
fit,
I've already done a video
they'd look really cool,
about picking an army.
in a bunch of different chapters, kind of leaning
It's
into
the one that's a
very
trailer if
heraldic
you look at
design
my
or,
YouTube channel.
Whatever you're
Go on home and it starts playing.
This one I've singled out. You might be able to see it if we can get an angle. So that Gravis armor
Different
has
data
a
sheet because it's got heavy
distinctive sort of,
bolters,
helmet
kind
shape
of
with
like
extra
the
sort of
crisis suits. That's an
components
idea.
around the side.
Depends if
Here
they
you
want to
can see in the
continue that way
defensive
of doing
submark.
things.
Cool. I get quite nerdy about those sort of older armor marks and how you integrate them into the new stuff.
I think this unit would look particularly cool in something like
Dark Angel's Green.
Dark Angel's Green. I mean,
Dark
sure, but
Angels.
I was going to say maybe Imperial Fists.
Fair.
They'd fit in really nicely,
Yeah.
right? So if you want a really
Imperial Fist
solid,
yellow,
dependable unit
sure.
that can stand on a wall somewhere and just blast hordes of enemies that run towards them, they would look excellent.
But they're not going to
They've
say
got
anything
use
about
cases
which
for them
units are
as well, like,
disappearing
when you're
today.
fighting
That'll be
huge
something that
orcs
might
or
come
gaunts or
out.
whatever, if you're-
I mean,
It could be
nobody
months from
wants
now,
blast heavy bolters.
closer
unit,
to the
really.
codex coming out.
I can't really conjure an infantry unit that would like that to happen to them.
I don't think every unit needs a special ability.
Let's look at
A lot of the
Vanguard
guns can
veterans.
just have the
We've
ability.
seen a Vanguard veteran already this week.
We've seen one Vanguard veteran, but this is the whole squad. We knew they were on the way. We saw them in the cinematic
Okay, 5
trailer,
Vanguard veterans. We
dropping in,
have
chopping out some orcs and
one
chopping
plasma
through the Data rig.
pistol,
This is the whole
3
unit.
bolt
They are
pistols,
effectively, they do for
4 power swords and a
intercessors,
big power sword.
They do what Stern Guard did for intercessors.
I never liked grav guns.
assault
They definitely
intercessors.
felt
They
like
are
a, oh, we just need
hardest hitting,
something for a Space Marine.
fast-moving assault troops in the Space Marine
Something
force.
else new,
Every single one of them comes
then
with a
do it.
master-crafted power weapon. They all have heavy bolt pistols. In addition
Heavy
to that,
bolt pistols,
they
master-crafted power
get
weapons, okay.
lethal hits when they charge in. So the master-crafted
Yeah, standard
power weapons make them
rules.
very good going
Lethal
into
hits on the charge.
enemy elite infantry.
There's your plasma
because
pistol.
They get lethal hits when they charge.
On,
they can
I
even
assume, the
punch up into
sergeant.
things like vehicles and monsters quite happily.
Got studs
They
on
get
that
even
leg?
more
I'm
lethal
not
when
sure
you
if that
start adding
works.
in things like a jump pack chaplain
Exactly.
or something.
I'll move more later. Here you can see we've moved into the front. A really great dynamic looking squad. I love the fact that
Yeah, it's Vanguard veterans with an assault marine
this
loadout.
coming off of rocky outcrops and things as they move forward.
Yeah, that's not
really
very
comes with
special.
that
I mean, they have
bounding,
all
leaping
power
motion
swords,
that
which
we
is different than
associate
all
with the
chain
jump
swords.
Equipped troops leap into battle. There's some fantastic posing. If you're a Black Templars or a Dark Angels
worth
fan,
saying is-
this
Okay,
one clutching
yeah.
his sword in.
You got a couple of poses. You got a guy
The
close to the
two-handed
ground.
sword
You got
is
some
great,
running.
yeah.
They're not all
We're
on
saying about the rocks. On
wobbly
the rocks are
tactical
all
rocks.
sort of Armageddon themed. So
Yeah,
Armageddon's got
absolutely.
this sort of like very jagged wasteland landscape sort of vibe to it. So all of the rocks, all the characters are
The
standing
rocks
on.
are actual rocks
and it
rather than
fits into
being
that. And
ruins.
there's loads of that
Okay.
depicted in the artwork of the Armageddon set.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the
They're very cool. They
multi-pose
look, I think, excellent
kit actually
in,
gives us.
Raven Guard, obviously, doing really
Well,
nicely.
we've got
No
They-
lightning
they-
claws,
Black
we've got no
Templar up
thunder
very well.
hammers.
Yeah, that's where I can see them. Anybody who really likes that sort of fast attack component is going to get a real kick out of those.
Got no
Imagine
shields.
bounding alongside White Scars.
We're not seeing any hand flamers or inferno pistols, so they may come
Next up
later,
then,
or
let's
they
look
may
at some
not
of
at
the
all.
heroes for the Space Marines who are in this. Let's start with the Ancient. I'm a big fan of banners, This one is near and dear to my heart. But straight away, I'm going to call out the fact that the banner has got loads of sculpted detail on
It's
it.
another
and this
ancient
is
with a
an
bolt gun,
Armageddon
as we've
campaign
seen.
banner.
What is
Space
it, the
Marine
8th edition
chapters
starter
return to
set?
Fight on Armageddon as part of Operation Imperator.
It could be converted into
been
raptors, yeah.
issued or made, I suppose.
Got a
These
couple with the
banners
big
show their
swords,
commitment to
and
the
there's your
cause.
2 heavy
Well,
melee
a lot
weapons.
of this detail is sculpted on the orc skulls inside the flame, the word
Power
Armageddon
axes.
inside that
But yeah,
skull,
power
the,
axes could be nice. Just
Aquila
something other than
holding
power
that,
swords. Like,
circle.
oh, he's got an
It's all
axe. That's a
sculpted
bit
detail,
different.
which will make it very
Maybe
easy
that's
to
how you
put a
denote the
fantastic
sergeant, but
sort of paint
functionally it's the
job on it.
same. We don't know if
The
the
centre of that
double-handed
circle
sword is going to be
clear,
some
as is the
different
centre of
weapon,
the
or it
star,
may
so
be
you can put
the
your
same
own
as all the
markings on.
others.
So here you can see Blood Angels and a 5th Company marking, but you could equally imagine it showing your Black Templars Crusade or whatever the chapter that you're going for.
Swords, gladius things are very
The
standard.
opportunity to add
Power flail?
I think
Yeah, I
it's
haven't seen a
really
power
cool.
mace
I
for
love
a
the
while.
fact that this is super
At least not in
themed
Space
to the
Marines.
events of this box set. Loads of Space Marine chapters have taken part in the Armageddon War, so loads
It's
of
a
them
nice
will
banner.
have the opportunity to take a banner like this with them. You get a couple
But I don't
of,
think it need another
head
ancient.
options in there. There's the unhelmeted head you can see there. There's also a helmeted head, which I believe is a Mark 7 helmet.
Yes, it is.
Ooh, it's another Mark
an
7
icon.
helmet, so
Yeah,
we've got quite a
helmet
few
with a
Mark
little
7
skull on
helmets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, a very, very cool banner and fairly easy to paint because it's all sculpted detail as well.
Yeah, really. And here you can see him at the front, a fantastic addition to your force. Useful in the game,
Skulls, a sculpted
obviously.
detail, that's nice.
But for my money, I just like having.
Yeah,
as
he
many
looks great.
banners
Makes
as
it
I can
easy
get
to
in my
paint. I
box.
mean,
In
Space
game
Marines
terms,
generally are
he
very easy
increases
to
the
paint.
objective control of the unit he joins, and
If you want
he
power
also
brass knuckles,
personally
you've got to
gets
go for the
4
orcs.
feel no pain when he's on an objective. So if you,
That heroic last
yeah,
stand scene.
I mean, all the best
absolutely.
Space Marine artwork has got a banner bearer standing on an objective or a pile of dead enemies or Space Marines, right? So absolutely just conjures that.
Yeah,
when you
no
put it
lightning
on the
claws
battlefield.
again.
And if
We
you've got
lost a
Space
lot
Marine
of lightning
company,
claws in
you've got-
10th edition. Doesn't look like there's any real change in 11th
so
edition. This is
from
looking
the
like,
ancient, let's
hey,
go to
you know,
the
this
librarian.
current edition,
So
it's more of the same.
Librarians obviously are the psychic weapon and protection for the Space Marine chapters. This one,
Yeah,
in,
that's your standard librarian.
Primaris armor. One of the first things I want to call out is the way that they've used the surface detail of this model to sort of inlay intricate sort of runes.
Ooh,
and patterns
geomancy,
to
he's
really
moving the
lean
rocks
into the
around.
Sort of mystical and slightly eldritch nature of the Librarius.
Yeah, so we saw this for the
Yeah,
first
no
time
Mark 6
on
beaky
the
stuff.
Terminator Librarian
Yeah,
that came out. He had a similar sort of thing, but the size of the Primaris models basically has allowed the sculpting team to add in lots of extra kind of esoteric details. And you can see
No,
there
don't
on
add
his
more
leg,
details. That just makes
you
it
can just
so
paint it
much
as
longer
blue
to
if you want, or you
paint
can
them.
kind of make it glow. Some really lovely opportunity.
It is very
to show off
Tigurius
your painting
looking.
skills if you want to do. And this is exactly the sort of model where you'd want to.
Yes,
have the
he's
chance
blue.
to
That is
sort of show
because the
Basically,
librarians wear blue
one
armor,
of every,
and the chaplains wear black
librarian,
armor.
and
And
one
that
of
is the
things that's really
same for
interesting is this
almost all the chapters.
echoes quite closely another Space Marine librarian that was made in plastic a while
Glowy
back.
eyes.
But this is kind of like his glow up. So I'm imagining this is the same guy having crossed the Rubicon.
Oh, but
Primaris
yeah, that's
to
a good
me.
idea.
A nice thing about this is that he actually squares up in a really cool way with the Orc Weird Boy. We were
Does he
talking about this
really
before we
square
came
up
on
with the Orc
here,
Weird Boy?
and see if I can picture it. But essentially, if you look here, the rock
Oh,
formation
right,
that
yeah.
he stood on is like blasting forwards as if it's sort of being moved by the psychic energy. And then the Orc
Yeah, that
over
looks
on the
good
other
for a
side is like,
duel. If someone wants to
you can
do
almost
a
see the
dual
sort of
diorama
unseen
for a
psychic
golden
power
demon,
blasting
there
forward.
you go.
Yeah, so there's 2 sets of the characters in this box that are designed effectively to be a duel. So a lot of people who buy this box will buy it because they want a Space Marine army or Orc army and put it on the battlefield. But there are people who just want to paint really
Cool
awesome
models, yeah,
models, right?
absolutely.
Nice
And if you want to
dioramas,
paint a
okay.
diorama, this is a really cool.
Poor Rox is even
one
losing on
to
his own
kind of
base.
put together. The base is
I
already
just
sort of
thought he had
built
wind.
for you. It's a really cool little face-off between those 2 characters. The
How did you convert into
dynamism of
Space
the psychic
Wolves?
powers is already
Well, I
evident,
suppose you do have a lot of the
in way that they're
parchment,
posed.
which the Space Wolves don't much go in
Why
for.
can't we have a red armored one? And the answer for that is that all
But you could put
librarians
string
pretty much
stuff
are
over that,
painted
maybe.
blue armor, because the librarians all wear blue armor, much like chieftains typically.
Yeah, there's a couple of.
I mean,
there's a couple of
intercessors,
Blood
they
Angels
work for all the
librarians that
chapters,
can
even
obviously
Death Watch
doesn't
now.
play by the rule. He writes his own rule.
They have their
He
own
writes his own rules,
standing
but all the
army
rest
of
Blood Angels librarians,
intercessors.
Since I think there were Blood Angels librarians, have always been blue. That has been true. I think he would White Scar up particularly nicely. I think he would make an excellent White Scars librarian.
Yeah, no doubt. So what's next? So the chaplain, the star of the cinematic trailer, without a doubt, lays waste to so many orcs, is this incredible Space Marines chaplain.
Yep, see Chaplain
jump pack.
in black armor. They're all in
You
black
were
armor.
telling me before that you really feel like he keys into a Blood Angels theme, weren't you?
Yeah, so all the models in this box set, all the Space
Well,
Marines you can
chaplains
paint
are
in
either
any
very
chapter, but I
Blood
think there is
Angels
something
or
very
they're
Blood
Dark Angels.
about a chaplain with a jump pack. That is one of the
That's the style of the
iconic,
Blood Angels.
Units of the Blood Angels. Lots of your Blood Angel units have jump packs. That's the way they like to fight. So having jump pack chaplains leading those, giving them extra bonuses is very useful. He looks very Blood Angel-y to me. He would perfectly at home in a Dark Angel or a Ultramarine army as well. In game terms, this is a very powerful piece. Obviously, Chaplain's very good in close
I
combat.
like the standard,
The jump
older
pack makes him get to close combat faster.
assault
than
marines.
only a
They
good
looked very
thing.
good.
He gives you the +1 to wounds, so that's
New
excellent
Dark
on
Angels
something
chaplain.
like
I mean, he works
the
as a
Vanguard
Dark
Veterans,
Angels
also
chaplain
excellent on,
with a jump pack.
Assault
No
intercessors,
problem.
something like that. This
They've
guy
had
also
the
does
option
mortal
for
wounds to
jump
enemy
packs,
units in
oh,
combat.
since
So as well as
3rd
making
edition.
the unit better and having a very scary combat stat line, he also does a bunch of extra mortal wounds. So he's just a very scary.
Does
thing
mortal
to
wounds on the
come barrel into
charge? Do we have
alongside
one of
Yeah,
them
fine.
already?
Space Marines with jump packs.
Any Space Marine chapter is going to be glad to have him. There was a question in the chat saying, does the librarian come with a helmeted option?
He does. He
Yes,
does. He
absolutely.
looks very
Wow,
cool
what a
helmet,
great
doesn't it?
question to
I always worry it will
answer,
interfere with
which
my
they've already
psychic
answered.
powers,
Does-
but-
it
Anyone
has,
that doesn't have a
it has
helmet
psychic hood
inlays,
built
yeah.
into
has a
the
helmeted option.
I don't know if we have a picture of that, unfortunately, but there is a.
I could rummage and try and find it on the
I mean,
frame.
yeah.
There we go.
I'm not sure that the camera is going to be able to capture it in quite all of its glory. But
Yeah, he's jumping
me,
off a
it's
smoke
a
grenade rather than having
component
smoke
on
coming off
this
his jetpack.
frame.
I suppose
has
it's
a
to
psychic
make
hood
it
built in.
But
not
there we go.
weird, because it's like, oh, is the jump pack working or is it
Psychic
spluttering
inlays and
smoke?
stuff so that he can focus his
Unclear.
mind-bursting powers.
In game terms, the librarian, we talk about him, but he's a great little addition to a Space Marine army. He gives you some feel no pain against psychic attacks, and he also gives you.
Oh,
invulnerable
wow,
save for
feel
the
no
unit
pain
he
against
deploys.
psychic
So he
attacks.
makes your
Okay.
intercessors very
Didn't seem to work in the trailer.
Here, as I move the models around, doing this of damaging an heavy metal model. If
They
you're
will
watching
hunt you
Heavy Metal
down if
Team,
you knock them over.
It's done with love. Right, so the last of the character models in this selection.
They have
is, of
shrunken
course,
the air
Space
takes, but they've
Marine.
also added more in air intakes on
What
like
a
the
model.
ankles.
This is obviously the leader for the Force.
Yeah, no jump librarian. I mean,
He
there is in
with a relic
Legends.
sword and relic
Rules are
shield,
there.
and just replete with.
Yeah,
all
so
of
the chaplain with
detail
jump
you'd
pack, the
expect to
rules
see
sound
for
exactly
a
the same.
leader of the Adeptus
You
Society,
charge, you roll a dice on a 4 or 5,
Armageddon
D3 mortal
campaign
wounds. On a
badge.
6, 3 mortal wounds.
I think this
The unit
model
gets
is
+1 to
awesome.
wound.
Like, this is a really, really excellent Space Marine.
He's got a
captain model.
pistol.
It's not like we were short on excellent Space Marine captain
Which they're
models, but
maybe
I
not
think
going to be
this
able
one
to swap out the
might
bolt
be the
pistol
best
anymore.
yet.
It'll be
there are so
one of the
many
bigger
lovely
pistols.
details. There's lots of really cool heraldic opportunities to do fancy stuff with the color
No
scheme.
grav pistol,
This
no
model you
hand
might have
flamer, no
recognised
inferno
as
pistol.
the
There might be
character
an
you
option
see
for
on
a
the front
plasma
of the
pistol.
Armageddon box. He's the guy standing loud and proud right in the middle of that fight against the orcs, and you can see that the color scheme on this model matches exactly what you see on the front
Second
of that
captain
box,
with
which is
relic
really
shield,
cool.
yes.
There's some
Hello
options in
again,
this kit as
9th
well.
edition.
I think we'll talk about the head options in a second. In game terms, he does what a Space Marine captain does, right? So you get to use your stratagems
Yep,
for one less
stratagems are
command
cheaper.
point, and then once a game, he
And
gets
once per
his
game,
firepower
he gets
where
more
he
attacks.
gets devastating wounds and a bunch of extra
And dev
attacks.
wounds, yep.
So you
We've
can
seen
either
it
have
already.
him at the heart of something like a Blade Guard unit.
So we know the rules
to
are
make
not
them
really
absolutely,
changing. This definitely feels more like
awesome in close
a
combat, or
model
you can add
box
some real
release
combat punches
than a
or
new
something like
edition
this.
rules
Yeah,
release.
the chat seems to really like this guy.
He's great. They are right. Correct.
Tiny
chat.
knife sword,
He's a great
yeah,
model.
gotta have
I
that.
agree with everyone said. This dude slaps. I'm with you.
And I assume he also
I found
comes with
the
a Mark
frame,
7
which is
helmet.
on. The captain actually comes with 3 heads options. I've built it, as you see here, with the hair that I wish I had. But you have a bear head. That's no helmet, not an animal in the woods. You also have this Mark 7 helmet with the Laurels of Victory on it. And then you have another helmet, which is a Mark 10 helmet with a crest running front to back.
There you go. So there's your Mark
it's
10, your Mark 7
the
helmet.
Ultramarines and their
And that Mark
specifically-
10
well,
helmet
what's
looks
really
an
nice
awful
about
lot like the
Captain, I
Mark
think,
4
is
helmet that we
because
got in
everybody
the
wants their
betrayal at
captain to
Calf
kind
box.
of embody,
Which also had the
embody
crest.
Them, yeah.
that they're in. You've got one there with the crest. I
It's
think
not
would
an
look really good,
Ultramarine
as you said,
crest, it's
Ultramarine. I
just
think
an
would make
officer's
excellent Imperial
crest.
Fist as well.
Absolutely.
The one with the laurels, I think, looks very blood
So they,
angel-y,
you see in
that
the
would look
poster in the
great. Or if you
background,
wanted to do like a
the
Black
guy
Templar
with the
or something
sword
like
and
that,
shield
if
and
you
the
keep
Mark
it
And
7
frankly,
helmet.
if you buy any
That could be this
Space
captain.
Marine kits that are chapter specific, you end up with enough spare heads and bits and pieces that, like,
And
again, it
also
just
the
attaches
laurels,
fire
that's
from
not
there.
a
Comes up
uniquely
and you just-
Ultramarine thing.
Or if you had
Any chapter can use
because
it.
the head comes off, as you say. If you had something like a
The
Space
head
Wolf head or a
comes
Dark
off,
Angel
don't
head
tell
with
the
the-
orcs
the,
that.
the wings, be very easy to add that onto
But
that
yeah, if
model
you
and
wanted a
immediately
different
make it
hat,
very at home,
different
whatever
head,
chapter you want.
if you wanted a Space
No
Wolf
kidding.
helmet, you wanted a
So
Mark
really a
7
fantastic model. That
helmet,
brings
like a
us
standard
to
one. If you
our
wanted a Mark
last,
6 crested helmet
miniature.
from the
Right
Mark
there,
6
in the
box,
Space Marine side of
you could
things,
put that on.
which is, of course, the Space Marines Land Speeder.
All right, the land
I'm
speeder.
really excited by this. On a
Those
personal
are,
level.
what, Phobos
It
looking
fills a
faces?
niche in my hobby life, which I'll explain later.
So we've got some
But this
missiles
is
on the
a
side, we've got a
reimagining of
multi-melter,
that
and
classic
underneath a
Land
Gatling
Speeder
cannon.
chassis that we saw first years
And
ago.
it's on a smoke thing.
and
That
it
looks
comes with
far
some
too
options. So here
fragile.
you
That
can
looks
see
like
them,
you'd pet it
on
and
the
bounces.
screen. You have the multi-melter.
Like
and
stick
then you
that
have
on the front of your
onslaught
car
Gatling
dashboard and
cannon.
it'll bounce up and down.
And it's got new weapons on the wings, right, Eddie?
Yeah, so
That's an old style looking multi-melter.
You've got Storm Fury missiles underneath. They basically add a little bit of extra anti-armor punch. So if you want to use this as a tank hunting rapid strike thing, you absolutely can. The multi-melter combined with the missiles, which are basically cracked.
So it's got a bit of tank hunting, a bit of anti-infantry.
Hunting down enemy vehicles. You've also got the option, if
I don't mind the flight
stance,
but I also like an oval base.
Swap that out and make it a very scary.
So that you actually have a base. I like my vehicles to be on bases.
Pretty good for overwatching for your guys as well.
Yeah, excellent stuff at Overwatch. So you can zip around, you can flame stuff, you can melt stuff. You can use this to get right in the heart of the enemy army and just cause absolute chaos. It's
So
also
weapon
got a
options,
very
but not
cool
necessarily
little
in
special
this
rule,
box.
which is called Purgation Run. And basically what that allows you to do is after you've shot in your shooting phase, you can move this thing d6 inches. Now, if you play Warhammer 40,000 already, you'll know that that is going to be an incredibly useful ability.
That's a standard
do things like
move and shoot.
Hop out from behind cover, shoot
Seraphim
the enemy,
have
then
it.
hop back safely.
Tyranid
Or
Gargoyles
you can
have
do
it.
things like move forward, kill an enemy unit with your Gatling cannon.
Yeah,
or
I'm worried that's
multi-melter or
going to
flamers,
break.
And then move on and take their objectives. So that's a really useful little ability. This has a lot of firepower.
Could have
for
had
the
more
relatively
smoke to like
small chassis.
make it
So I think
stand
we're
up
gonna
a
see
bit
lot
better,
of
so it's
land
not on a
speed in
very
Space Marine.
fragile
The fun
point.
thing to point out here as well while we're talking
Land
about
speeders
it,
are already
I'll show
very
you the frame.
fragile.
So here you can see this rocky outcrop that the model is.
They tend
based
to
on.
not stand up to anything.
If you end up with having multiple land speeders in your force and you don't want them all to have an identical rocky outcrop, the kit also contains this piece here, which is essentially the sort of the fin that hangs down beneath the land speeder, so you can build them with that and then attach it to the base via like a store.
So you get an
Okay.
extra tactical rock that you can just
Well, yes,
deploy
exactly.
elsewhere.
So they can be a bit
so I think
different.
The expectation, because it's a push
A little bit different. Yeah, but land speeder, we're talking toughness 8, 7 wounds.
Having 2, they don't have to be the same if you don't want them to, which I thought was quite a nice feature.
Oh, if you
I
get
love
2,
this.
so they
Very
want you to
excited. I'll talk more
swap
about
with
it
someone.
later.
Buy
There
2
was some questions
boxes
about the
between
scale of
2
things,
of you.
in particular in relation to the orcs. So I'm just going to quickly
Basic land speed is
do
toughness
the
7,
orc
6
knob,
wounds.
which I've kept on the side and stand him alongside just a Space Marine intercessor, and then put an orc boy on the other side, because people were wondering how the scale was. These are beefy boys, but the size is pretty much what you'd expect, and the orc knob is enormous.
Yeah, the Orc boys
Great,
are about
standard
the same size as the Orc boys
kinda
are
guys.
today, but I think more detail, more characterful.
Remember
The
Jink
Orc
for
knobs are
flyers?
now
I
eye
do.
level
It made
with
them
a Space
very,
Marine
very
about
strong in
twice as
6th and
wide,
7th
so,
edition.
They are.
They move really
enough
fast, and suddenly they get an invulnerable
The other
save.
thing to say, I suppose, is you'd mentioned the idea of a dual piece. We'd already talked about the Weird Boy and the Librarian. So here is essentially the face-off that you can make with the Space Marine Captain and the Orc War Boss, and they just look great going up against each other, sort of capturing that scene in the trailer where you have the axe grinding against the relic shield.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
again,
not
the
as
bases,
cinematically
you can get the
paired
idea
off.
that the rocks are sort of part of the same rock formation. They're designed to go. Imagine they have a slightly bigger base. You could put them on and make a really lovely little diorama together.
Yeah, it
So,
would actually be a nice golden demon entry.
yeah,
I like that
think
they're
we will see
making
some
good
from-
models that make nice
Right,
dioramas.
So,
But
that
thinking in
is,
rules terms, this
all
is
of
not really
the
anything new.
models from the Space Marine side. We've done the orcs, so that's all of the things that come inside Warhammer 40,000 Armageddon. We've talked a
What
little
base
bit
size
about
is
the
that?
fact
It looks
that
like
you
40
don't have to paint these in
millimeters
the
for the
colours of,
captain
the
and
models that,
what, 50 or
yeah,
60
yeah.
millimeters for the
And
war
so we've
boss?
actually got some examples from the Heavy Metal team of other Space Marine chapters.
All right.
that they've
What do they
painted,
look
and
like
these
in
are using
yellow
the decals that you
or
find
blue?
inside the kit.
There's
and
blue.
these are also forces that you expect to see
Crimson
present
Fist.
on Armageddon. So here is a Crimson Fist, absolutely stunning paint job. First of all, incredible work. Crimson Fist, of course, synonymous with wars
Standard
against the
Crimson
orcs.
Fist guy.
And
Mark
it's
7 helmet.
wonderful. A White Scar. Again, the White Scars have turned up in significant numbers to join Operation Imperator. So here is an intercessor. He's got the grenade launcher option. That's pretty handy in the game as well. I'm not going to lie. I've been enjoying that.
Most people forget that you have grenade launchers on your intercessors.
Salamander's chapter. And one of the things they've done a wonderful job.
Salamander's Eradicator with Heavy Bolter.
Crazy skills of the Heavy Metal team is.
Yeah, we need a Blue Marine. It's not an
lava
Ultramarine
at the
though,
bottom on
so
the
it's
butt
different.
plates to really
The
make
War
use
Truck
of
needs
those
more
weapon
weapon
spaces.
options.
Yeah, I
Well,
really
maybe
like the
maybe if
Eradicators,
there is a
those
multi-part
big
kit,
sections
there's
on
not
the front
necessarily going to be a
kind of show
multi-part
off
kit.
whatever it is
Then we
that
can
makes your
add
Space Marine chapter
the big
unique.
shooter
You can imagine
or the
that works
Scorcher
equally well with
as
a very
weapon
heraldic
options.
scheme if you had
And you can
something like,
pick one.
Howling
And it doesn't
Griffins or
need to
something
have
with
3
a
different
very
data
cool
sheets.
painted up with kind of any thematic thing.
Absolutely. So here, first of all, we get to show 2 things. One, which is how much faster at painting you are than me.
4 times faster.
Exactly so. And the second is how mediocre our paint skills are compared to the Heavy Metal team. But we wanted to show how much we've enjoyed getting to grips with some of this. So here are some examples of our own models. Here
Okay.
is my land speeder, and I'm going to wax lyrical for a minute. I
They're
bought
calling it a
little
land
frame
speeder.
for him, and this is why I'm excited, right? So I've been a Dark Angels collector for a very long time. My favourite thing about the Dark Angels is the Raven Wing.
Raven
and
Wing.
their sort of hunt for the
So it's
fallen,
black,
and that
yep.
is the vanguard of the Dark Angels army. And within the Dark Angels, there's a particular.
I
thing
know
that
it'll be
the
kind of
Force
expensive.
organisation. So the first company is the Deathwing. The
They
second company is the
mentioned
Raven
like
Wing,
Heavy
and the
Bolter
Raven Wing
and
act
Heavy Flamer.
Typically,
I
in
don't know if
squads
they
of
will
10 operating
be
as a Raven
in
Wing
this
attack squadron.
box though.
Now, in days of yore,
They
that was
tend to
6
be you
bikes,
have one
attack
option and
bike,
that's it.
and a land speeder
remember it well.
for 10 men.
No, they haven't said the base size, but it
with
looks
the,
like
Primaris era, I got
120
very excited
millimeters by
the
90
Outrider bike
millimeters.
and the ATV, but that got to 8.
I
and
tend to
then
be
when
pretty
the,
good at eyeballing
land
these
speeder
things.
came along, and I've got one here actually. I can show you.
The Storm Speeder?
There you go, the Storm Speeder. Beautiful model. It's 3, and so it doesn't add up in the weird
the wrong
maths
amount.
that I've got going on in my head. You can see how it scales alongside the Land Speeder. Actually, it's really nice. But this enables me
Maybe
to
that's a
once
bit
again
thinner.
get back to that sort of perfect,
The magic
sacred
10.
magic
Yeah.
10 that I seek with my Dark Angels army. So that was the first thing I
So the
painted.
Storm
I was
Speeder's
very,
not
very
going away,
excited to
maybe?
have a Primaris era Raven Wing attack squadron. I yield the microphone to Eddie.
Yeah, well, I've painted them as well. I've done a couple of Space Marines and a couple of Orcs. I did a Long Fang for my Space Wolves. That's one
This
of
is in the colours of the army you took.
That's,
to
yeah,
with
it's
us,
absolutely. I'm expanding that. So it is the Redmoors.
Okay.
Painted him up as a Long Fang. I did some hazard stripes there on the
Bonus
front.
points for
right.
hazard stripe.
You've got to put
That's-
hazard stripes on.
that's
Otherwise,
commitment.
how do you know which end is dangerous?
Quite.
You don't know. They also did, because I wanted to do kind of something a bit more heraldic, I did a Stormlord Space Marine. That is one of the chapters that features in Operation Imperator as one of the Space Marines, a White Scar successor, battling currently.
Yeah, that
on
looks
the
all
planet
right.
of Armageddon. And then I
got
painted
that
a couple
helmet,
of Orc
Mark
units for my
7
Orc
helmet.
army, the Squigtown Scrappers. First off, I've got the War Boss. I've got a
Quite
few
a
War
big
Bosses,
mech.
but I'm looking forward to using the new Cleave mechanic to chop through lots of Space Marines next time I go.
All
against
right,
them.
so
And of
Cleave
course, I
is a
couldn't
new
put in
rule.
The Dakar rig, could I? I had a great time.
Which we
painting
also
him,
have seen in like
and
past
he's
Kill
gonna
Team
lead
Aloft.
my
Cleave
Dread mob. I think
was
I've got about
like
7 or 8
ignores
dreadnoughts,
armor.
various
So
different
he's kind
types.
of
So we think it is like
Yeah, he's going to
devastating
be the
blast.
mech that's
Oh,
made
that's really
the
nice.
dreadnoughts and kind of march behind
Cleave
them,
might be
watching his
blast, but in
creations as
melee.
They blast through Space Marine. or
That's what
whoever
I'm
else.
thinking.
There we go. And I'm absolutely made up because somebody said a nice thing in the chat.
So you can
about
super
my,
murder
the
infantry.
base on my
Yanden
bike.
Daka Walker.
That's
Mhm.
it. I'm stoked.
Yeah,
There we are.
11th
So
edition really
I'm
feels
just
like
super
10.5.
excited
In
for
terms of
1.7
rules,
Armageddon. It's a genuine
because it's
season
still
because I love
compatible.
Space Marines more than almost anything.
Right,
So,
yeah, that makes sense.
this
That
is
makes
a
sense.
good
Blast,
time
but
to
in the
do it.
melee version.
Chat, you've been wonderful joining in the
Good.
conversation, asking so many questions. It's been really good to have you here. Now is your last chance to get some questions in there if you've got any. Eddie, while I let the chat fill up, what's your favourite thing in the set? Pick one thing.
Oh, one thing. Well, I mean, I'm obviously very excited about all of the Orcs. I think they're immediately going into
What's your
my,
favourite thing, chat?
Warhammer 40,000 Orc army once I can get them painted. But I am actually probably most excited
probably
about
the land speeder
lore
for
and
me,
background in
although it looks a
Operation
bit fragile.
Imperator.
So
I really like
maybe
Armageddon. I
it's
think
the
one of my
Vanguard
favourite
veterans?
locations, Warhammer 40,000
Maybe
universe.
not,
I
because
get
they don't have
very
the lightning
warm,
claws.
fuzzy, nostalgic
Heavy Bolter
feelings,
Gravis?
thinking back to the
That's a
original
pretty good
Wars
choice.
for Armageddon that I got to play years back, and actually seeing
Orc
the
Walker, that looks good.
battlefield and the war zone of Armageddon, all the different hives and locations explored in super detail in a good
It's the big
old-fashioned,
tanks,
old-school
not the
campaign book.
intercessors,
It's
not the
absolutely
Orc
wonderful.
boys.
I've been loving it.
Great. If I was picking a
Okay,
thing,
there's someone likes the
it'd
Orc
be very
boys.
difficult. My
Orc
heart
Wartrack
says
coming back?
say the land speeder because it feels such a weird little niche in
New
my
war
own hobby
boss? I've
brain.
got so
But
many.
my head says
I've seen so many war
that the
bosses.
Dakar rig really steals
The cards. You
Um,
might like the
it's an
cards. Yeah.
Just incredible piece of design work. I've been in the Warhammer
Big
hobby now
Dakar
for
rig,
36 years.
Duck
and every now
Walker.
and again, something comes along that genuinely leaves me speechless at first blush, and this was one of those things.
I love that it
Incredible work.
basically looks like a giant mechanized squig as well. You can, if you sort of squint and imagine it's the big walking
If you
squig, it's got
really
the jaws,
squint,
it's got the legs,
it's got legs.
ponderous gait. You can imagine doing that.
It's like the idea
It's
of a
just
squig,
really
the
fun.
concept of a squig.
So a bunch of questions that maybe
Campaign
we can,
cards.
cover off.
Something to
the
nice.
most
Yeah,
prevalent one
something
is,
could
any
like.
news on a release
Good,
date,
good.
Eddie?
So we're not
It's a
going to
different way of doing campaigns, but not really. They've done card map campaigns before in 8th edition.
You can have your
like a
Armageddon
city
box
fight.
in your hands and be
And you would
building
draw
up
some
and
card to
playing
see the
with-
territory and make a map of the
Somebody
cards.
said, what about
Mecha
Crusade?
Squig.
And the nice thing about the new edition of Warhammer 40,000
Will
is that
10th edition
essentially
boxes get
Crusade was
cheaper as
a way
11th edition
in,
comes out?
this
No,
current edition of Warhammer
absolutely
40,000
not.
of
They
making
will
your
only
games
increase
feel
in
extra narrative.
price.
All games of Warhammer 40,000 have got that narrative injected into their very DNA now.
Yep.
And so,
Well,
if
when
you
the
want to take it to the extra
campaign
level, well, you've got that
cards
double
come out,
artist
I'm sure there'll be
You've got to
someone
make
who
sure
will
get
want
together
just
with
the models,
campaign.
and you can
Really
get the
exciting for you.
campaign cards from them. or
somebody said,
someone
"When we get our
who's
t-shirts?"
like
Well,
pairing
Penny
up
and I
and they
got
don't
these
care,
t-shirts, Adepticon.
or they're getting
Yes,
two.
along with
Like, well, I don't
1,000
need
other
two
people in the
sets of
room.
the
we
cards.
hosted the preview
So
there.
if you want cool swag, then come to our events and get cool swag.
That is exactly where I was going with that. Adepticon is one heck of an event.
Yeah, I
And
was
whilst the
expecting a
sound
knobs
superb
mob.
Been there, done that.
Instead of two
Got the
knob
t-shirt.
Yeah,
characters.
absolutely. So somebody
I also
beat
don't
me
like
to
the big
joke. That was great.
tube on the Pain
oh,
Boy.
somebody in the
I
chat's
think
also
it
got
could
the
be
t-shirt.
fine
Well
without
done, you.
that tube.
Right.
If I got one, I
we
would just cut off the
are
tube.
about done, I think it is fair to say. Chat, you've been lovely. It's been so nice having you here joining us. Everybody in the room who's moved.
Oh, yeah, you'll
models
be able to
around
get
so
everything
carefully
on
and with such
eBay
speed.
pretty
Thank
quickly.
you for helping make this preview happen. All
The
the
captain
buttons
with the shield.
and making us look good. If you want
Yeah,
more
there's not a lot of
information
Gretchen.
about Warhammer 40,000 Armageddon, you want
And I'm assuming the
pictures,
points
if
will
you're
stay
trying to
pretty
screen
similar
grab and that's
to
just
the
not working
current
for you,
edition.
Warhammer
So we're
community.com
talking, what,
has
10
articles which cover
Gretchen,
all of the models that you've seen here in probably more detail
40
than
points,
Eddie and I have
They do
rambled.
Two
actually
lots of
also
Orc
have some very
boys.
lovely pictures of
That's,
other
well,
miniatures
200
and other
points
paintings
between
that we
them.
weren't able to show. So
There you go.
if you
Yeah,
want
there's
to
no
see
full
the
knobs
Space Marines
unit.
painted up as
There's a knob
salamanders or
lieutenant
white
and a knob
scarves
with a
or,
banner.
Crimson Fists. They've got some
So
great
it's very parallel. So you've got a
Fantastic.
psyker for each
So all
side, a
that
banner
remains
for each
is
side.
to say
No
thank
Space
you,
Marine
everybody.
lieutenant.
It's been lovely having you
But you've got
here.
a chaplain
We'll see you
there,
again very
whereas
soon.
the orcs have their knob boss. A knob big boss. Alright, that's pretty standard Armageddon artwork. Because there's a Death Car of Krieg. You can tell it's Armageddon because there's a Death Car of Krieg Marine. Okay. Properties. Let's change to looking at the articles that have just come out so we can see better what's in the box. Stick with me, chat. Here we are. Okay. What's in the box? Operation Imperator book. We've got Operation Imperator. That's some pretty nice art. That's the artwork we've just seen. See the big knob on the left? Guy with the shield and the sword. Don't think that's a cloak attached to him. And yeah, there's your Death Car of Krieg. Fighting some orc boys. So, latest lore is in the book. Okay. 114 pages. So it tells you what happened after Yarrick, the return of Yarrick. Yarrick came back, and then the Space Marines returned, which is odd because if you include the Armageddon Crusade book, which was against Angron, that means you've had some chapters that turned up on the planet, left the planet for 5 minutes, and then came back to the planet. All right, Operation Imperator, yeah, it's only in there. Interesting. So Dark Millennium will tell you like what's happening in the wider universe. Universe is broad with galaxy spanning Imperium of Man and a bunch of armies. So it tells you what the Angels of Death are, the Space Marines, the Orcish Hordes, the various places to fight on Armageddon. So it's trying to be a lot like the second edition set. And there's going to be Blood Angels, Salamanders, Imperial Fists mentioned, Ultramarines mentioned, Black Templars who were here and then went away for a bit and have now come back. All of the different Orc clans are there. And Marnius Calgar. Operation Imperator was great. We need to know that it's his ideas. So Calgar is on everything, including these operations. What's that music? We can have the music back. Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, the Orc boys. There's no, like, rocket launcher, no Scorcher, no big shooter. You just got the combi weapon with a K on the Orc knob. No novels were mentioned at this time. So it talks about what's happening in various parts. Yeah, Battle for Hive, Infernus. There it is with the Salamanders. And more Salamanders up there going towards Hive Hades. Oh, they've got to take Eumenides Bridge. And that's the Stormlord symbol. The 3 lightning bolts with a skull in the middle. They are a White Scars successor chapter. explosions, big squiggy thing. Oh, Battle Sisters get mentioned. Yeah, we don't get a detachment, of course. We just get a mention. By the way, the Battle Sisters were also here. Did you know the reason that our Martyred Lady has the red robes and the black armor is because so many of them died on Armageddon? They wanted to mark that. So many martyrs. There used to be black robes and black armor, which admittedly was silly and didn't look very good, with like a tiny bit of white trim. So now it's red robes on black armor. So there we got, okay, so front and center is the starter set box. Got the Orc Walker, you got the Captain, got the Intercessors, Gravis Marines. Land Raiders are still around. And there's still flyers in the background. Yeah, there was a Sisters Battalion box of stuff we'd already had and not at that big of a discount. Okay, so we've got more than 100 pages of lore. We know, it's 114 pages, you said earlier in the article. Okay, take a look. See the full unboxing. I think we'll just switch to a different article. Okay, unboxing everything else. Let's have a look at that. Which will just be better shown off versions of the things we've already seen. As it should be. But at least they managed a whole live stream, though they did it in-house, without any audio problems. Okay, the everything else. So we get core rules. That is some old artwork. New edition, loads of tweaks, minor changes, some adjustments. Keep it balanced and competitive. Yeah, okay. The rules have a standalone book. Clear writing and index sections. That's something that they needed, very much so. An index where you can just look things up. It's a small A5 copy. Great. And then we get the mission deck. Chapter approved. So new missions designed to work with the new force disposition system. And they said that the force disposition system is what you use for any way of playing. I'm hoping that doesn't mean we're stripping out everything except this chapter approved mission deck. You know, we'll see. Yep, 25 individual missions so that the 5 different kinds of force disposition can fight all other kinds of force disposition. Secondary missions, deployment cards, with 3 balanced choices for every mission matchup. And they're useful tokens for marking the terrain. So we haven't got a return of objective markers or a continuation of objective markers. We're switching over to terrain pieces. So there's no terrain pieces in the box, not even the card stuff. So that's a disappointment. Here's the card deck that tells you how to play. Here's the terrain. Nope, no terrain. Gotta make your own. Oh, like the good old days. And then the campaign set. So what do we have? You can do a grand campaign or any of the war zone. You get 3 campaign phases. Assign agendas, alliances. Yeah, that sounds very Crusade. So it may be Crusade without the leveling up, but the leveling up was the reason to continue with Crusade. You get rewards with upgrades. That's capitalized, that persist throughout the campaign. So the Maelstrom campaign had this system where if you won, you got a bunch of stuff. Or like you got a cool thing, but that cool thing lasted for 1 edition. I did notice that it said snap shooting for Overwatch. Yes, so that's just an older rule that means you hit on a 6 when you fire Overwatch. So that just may be a rule. Yeah, the Orcs feel like they're missing a squad, I guess. Yes, 25 different player experiences, 15 unique combinations of missions. Yes. That sounds right. No premium rulebook? Well, I don't think there would be in this set. There may be sold later. The Crusade stuff we've got should still be compatible with 11th edition, if you wanted to continue. But this will be another way of doing campaigns. Rather than a campaign book, it's a set of campaign cards. So there'll be a little fold-out instruction on how to do a campaign. A narrative thing is there. So we've got the Mannheim Gap as a place. Secure perimeter. Now I can't see these like amazingly well. Don't know if there's any way I can zoom in and see them better. Alright, so it says, and secure perimeter, you have an agenda. So this will be on top of your force disposition, I assume. They also have that middle card. You've got your force disposition selection, which then splits off into various bits. Right, so that's how you figure out the mission. You have your force disposition, then you compare it to the enemy force disposition, and depending on what it is, that is the mission that you do. One side must presumably be marked as the attacker, and one the defender, otherwise that's not going to work. Okay. I mean, I hope you wouldn't... Oh yeah, so that'll be phase 1. It's got a 1 in the middle. See that right in the middle card? Got a big number 1. Then for the next part of the campaign, the phase 2 of the 3 phases, then you'll do it again. You'll compare, say, the winner or attacker's force disposition to the opponent's force disposition, and then get a different mission. Hopefully it'll be a significantly different mission. The far left card has an agenda achieved. If you do the agenda, you get 1 agenda achieved card. You gain 35 victory points from this primary mission. And there are no enemies in your territory. Okay, good. That is a liberator's agenda. So presumably the Space Marines. And the Mannheim Gap, location 1-2, phase 1. While an alliance has control of this location, okay, so it's a map campaign, sort of. When a player in that alliance draws a battle skills card, they can something, 1 additional card before choosing which to keep. So I assume draw another card and pick 1. All right. There are 9 unique agendas. This is a bit more interesting now. 9 unique agendas, so you can try and score during the games. Doing so earns them a special card that affects the end of the campaign. You have control of critical locations, so it's a map campaign. You get the controlling alliance special rules that affect your game forever onwards, and adds thematic rules to the battlefield, rocks fall, crumbling ruins. Okay. Yeah, so it's cards. It's just some cards. You can run a campaign in a weekend. You could maybe even run one in a day. It could be hopefully set up so that they give you some detachments. What I don't like is when you haven't got a starter set where you can just start. There's a lot of things to add on. So you've got to learn, okay, how do detachments work? Which detachments have I got? Things like that. What do you need from the box except the models? Only at least 1 of the card decks, which I assume, yes, will be sold separately relatively soon. Right, what can we see from these individual cards? If I zoom in, at least, so I'm zooming in, and I'll read it. So we've got bolt pistol is now got the close quarters rule rather than the pistol rule. I assume it's the exact same rule. The bolt rifle has assault and heavy, same as it does at the moment, same profile, 2 shots, 24-inch range, strength 4, -1, 1 damage. Bolt pistol is a bolt pistol still. The intercessors still have the Oath of Moment rule and still have objective secured. Now, if this is a revamp of the intercessors rule, like as a unit, maybe they won't have the, yeah, you get to fire all of the shots multiple times, or maybe that's on there and we just can't see a bit further down. Or maybe this one in the starter set doesn't mention that, but come the next edition starter set, come the next edition's codex, then we'll see, oh, yep, that rule is still there. No terrain footprints in the box, no. Wonder if the core rules will tell players to get the app. It might do. they really should be like, I know we've got campaign cards, but how to play bit by bit, how to make your army, and it'll be mentioned you need a detachment. What are detachments? Mention a detachment rather than find them online. There's 40 to pick from as a Space Marine player and 10 to pick from as an Orc player. The Orcs, so we have a shooter, which is rapid fire 2. That looks like attacks 4. That's kind of crazy. So that's up to 6 shots per Orc boy. Ugh. I know it's hitting on 5s, but that's averaging 2 hits. And it's strength 4. That can do some nasty things. And then if you add in something that boosts their shooting, more DACA mayhaps? Oh dear, that's very nasty. And they've got the same rule. Get the good bits, objective secured. And they have a shooter and a pistol. Okay, same real stat line. Toughness 5, 5 up save, objective control 2, leadership 7+. Yep. Pretty much the same. So you get some data cards. They will let you play right out the box. They won't necessarily have points. Yeah, the Orc boys are only 1 wound, same as before. But the boss knob has 2 wounds, same as before. So there's... Oh, that might be the special heavy weapon. That might be like a special shooter. Ah, right. So even the model that we're seeing there, that could be a super special shooter. Okay, so maybe there is a big shooter in the unit. Very good. So it's a convenient rules reference, but one that'll be outdated. Maybe outdated already. You get 728 transfers. Okay. Got the ancient, got the banner knob. There you go. Some things. All right. Next article, I think. Because we have a couple more articles. So we've got the Orc side, the Space Marine side, and then a what's in this box? Yeah, okay, we'll do what's in this box, which is a good summary of all of the things. We have, changing this, article switches. We should be seeing a new article on screen. Yes. The video is just the video we've already watched. So we have Gazgul returns, Operation Imperator turns up to turn the tide before Imperial resistance crumbles. Because it was crumbling, as we saw in that Armageddon trailer with Yarek. Then it wasn't, then it is again. And now the Space Marines have turned up and fix everything. So there's all of the models. Yeah, so 2 squads of 10 boys, 1 squad of 10 Gretchen, 2 leader knobs, Pain Boy, Psychic Boy, War Boss, Big Mech on Walker, and your War Track. Alright. And then the Space Marine side, you've got your 5 super special Vanguard veterans, you've got your 3 Gravis Marines but with heavy bolters, you've got your 10 intercessors, and 4 characters. Jump Pack Chaplain, obvious which unit they go with. You've got a Banner Bearer. I mean, they assumedly will go with like half the Space Marines, half the intercessors, or be by themselves. Librarian, and you got your Captain. Yeah, so you've got 4 characters, and they can only join, 3 units, assuming you split the intercessors. And on the Orc side, you've got 6 characters, 1's a Walker, and of the 5 characters, you can have 2 in 1 unit of boys, 2 in another unit of boys, and then you've still got 1 spare. And that is assuming that, like, the Psyker is a leader, the War Boss is a leader, and the other 3 are support characters. May not be the case. Or it might be the case. No, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds right. Still no Beakies present. Right, 23 Space Marines, 38 Orcs. I mean, 10 of them are Gretchen. Don't know if that quite counts. Conveniently sized rulebook, A5. Same as like the 7th edition, 6th edition starter set had this small rulebook. You've got your lore book, which I think a lot of people will just ignore. You've got your mission deck that everyone will need to play 40k for the next year. They're even putting the expiry date in there. So I suppose the mission deck we've currently got, the 25-26 one, which came out in about March 2025, will at least run until, say, the end of June 2026. And then presumably this one will run for maybe almost a year, and we might see it replaced next May. Dominus Narrative Campaign. Then you got your transfer sheet and your data sheet cards. There you can see them a bit better. There's your captain, there's your librarian, your 4 characters, 10 intercessors, 3 eradicators with heavy bolters, 5 Vanguard veterans. We don't know if the swords are going to be different. Like, is the two-handed sword a different sword or not? Maybe not. It's just that he likes holding it with 2 hands. And the land speeder. Okay, and the York side, yeah. Big boss. Orc Knob Big Boss. And a war boss who is even bigger than the big boss. And you got your Banner Knob, Pain Boy, Weird Boy, 20 Orc Boys, 10 Gretchen, no Runt Herder. That's your Shrinkflation. Your War Track, and your Dakarig. And then you get your cards. Okay. Some stuffs. This is truly a box. Some nice flame artwork going on in the left leg. Yep, he's got a shield. He's got a mastercrafted power sword and a shield. We know it's going to be a damage 2 sword. And once per game, he gets to have more attacks and devastating wounds. The librarian is here and pointing his staff. He's in the standard Tacticus armor. And a lethal weapon. Now, I don't think that weapon has lethal hits. Sometimes they just say words. And they want us to know whether they mean a campaign word, like a rule word or not. Will there be an ultimate starter set with terrain in it? I don't think so. I think this is about as ultimate as they get. Unless it's just a box. And the box itself is part of the terrain. And they'll do smaller starter sets, like a recruit starter set and a standard something starter set, which will have fewer and fewer units. So you get like the boss, you get the big boss and 10 Orc Boys and the War Track against 10 Intercessors, the Ancient, and maybe the Storm Land Speeder. Maybe the narrative campaign deck is a replacement for proper Crusade? No, not necessarily. Because we've just seen a lot of Crusade stuff not be produced. I know, it's unfortunate. So maybe they have dropped Crusade, but campaign stuff has definitely continued. Go through the video and pause on the cards in the rulebook, there's more information. Interesting. Oh, the swords are all the same. Oh yeah, that's right, we did see it briefly. Screenshots must be taken. Okay. Yeah, I see no mention really of like psychic phases. They might have wanted to tell us about that before now. I know they could have printed terrain card things for you to just pop out. They could have been like in the cards and then just pop them out. New units for other factions and any changes? Well, what we'll see is there'll be this set coming out, and then through like July, September, and then really into October, we'll get more stuff for the Space Marines and the Orcs. And then we'll look at other factions towards December. Yeah, I think psychic stuff will remain basically the same. Like, as we see it now. Then, yes, there's your chaplain. There's your banner bearer. Characterful miniature. Makes it easier for intercessors to contest objectives. They already have high objective control. So it's only if they die. Okay, we can see all 10 of them. So we've got 2 Mark 7 helmets and a bear head with a chainsword. And we've got a guy throwing a grenade and another guy reloading. And we've got a guy looking like a sniper. And we've got a guy with the box magazine. Yep, guy with tiny butter knife. Guy whipping out a pistol. And is that 1 grenade launcher? I'm only seeing 1 grenade launcher on the right side. That doesn't necessarily mean they're changing the rules to make it 1 per 10 rather than 1 per 5 as it is now. Okay, we learn nothing for the rules. So we have different helmets because the attrition. Good shooting, decent, I'd say, oh, it's okay shooting, unless you get the multiple shots. Decent melee, well, they're just slapping people and you're trying to roll high enough. More effective when joined by a character, but not a chaplain, because the jump chaplain can't join them. Right, the Vanguard veterans. Yes, we've got 3 with the pistols. That looks like a pistol on the guy in the center, and he has a power sword. So 4 heavy bolt pistols with power swords, and 1 with a power sword and a plasma pistol. And we've got 2 Mark 7 faceplates, 3 Mark 10 faceplates. Close combat specialists, they jump around a lot. They are the spear thrust, but they don't have spears. I don't understand. Doesn't mention any other options for like weapons, so that'll be a kit that comes out later, potentially multi-part. And then we'll see, oh wait, there was all these other things that you could have. It's not just power swords. Otherwise, my Death Watch can very easily just be, yeah, I've got guys with bolter and power sword. Backpack swap, maybe? Maybe not necessary. I wouldn't say Combat Patrol is dead. I think they will be releasing more Combat Patrols, and then they may keep it up as a game mode. I don't know if they'll be able to wrangle it into a good game mode like the Age of Sigmar Spearhead is, because that would mean stopping all of the existing Combat Patrol rules at least. Maybe keep the boxes around because they're pretty popular as start collecting sets. And then they can start anew and try and get a good Spearhead system. But we've had no mention of that yet. That is something I would like to hear more about in the coming weeks, if we could. I know, a bolter looks like a heavy bolt pistol anyway, so they're very interchangeable. What's in the box? Some stuff. Definitely some stuff. And if you like the models, great, you've got new models. Rules-wise, we're not really hearing anything especially interesting. There's the cleave keyword, which is blast, but in melee. Depending on the number of enemies you're fighting, the more attacks you will get. Okay, I mean, I like them well enough. I like the guy in the bottom left. I think that's got character. I do prefer the older jetpacks, though. Just generally... And it might be because I'm older. I've never really cared much about Assault Marines with jump packs. When I got Assault Marines, I didn't have the jump packs. I just had them running around on foot with chainswords and bolt pistols. And then we later on got Intercessors. Assault Intercessors in 9th edition with bolt pistols and chainswords. Like, oh yeah, that's fair enough. You just done the current unit, but again, and slightly bigger, and you called it Primaris. They still have rules. They've got actually really cool rules. When you charge with Assault Marines, like Firstborn Assault Marines on foot, where are they? That'll be just an assault squad. When they charge, they get to pick one of the weapons, one of the abilities. They get like sustained hits, or lance, or lethal hits on their chainswords. Plus any character that's with them, of course. Lance is really good. +1 to wound when you charge, which you do unless you have a chaplain with you, and you probably want to go with sustained hits. And your sergeant can have all the cool stuff. They're slightly more expensive than Assault Intercessors, but they're good. can have twin lightning claws on that squad. This is why we use legend rules. The rules are there for you to use with this edition, and presumably compatible with next edition. Okay, people are telling me more things. Grenade is now called explosives. What is a keyword? Right. Pistol is now close quarters. Yep, spotted that. Captain datasheet lists tactical squads in units it can lead. What did I tell you, chat? You can't get rid of tactical squads. Tactical squads are the everything. That's a good idea, having a dump of the freeze frames. So if we had, say, in my Discord, which is linked, then in the Warhammer 40k chat, you could join the Discord, go there, and you could put some screenshots. That would be very useful, if you could please do that. There's like a few screenshots already. Mostly of models. But yes, that would be useful. Welcome. People are joining already. Good, good. You will get pinged every time I do a new video, so expect that. Or you just subscribe to the channel now. That's an option. Either way, you get to watch my videos. So yeah, if you could drop screenshots there, that'd be very good. I would have liked cardboard terrain. We didn't have a cardboard orc. There's no orc dreadnought made of card. Oh dear. Right, if the new heavy bolt... Oh, we don't know. We don't know if the new Eradicator's got the heavy bolter or if it's a separate datasheet. All right. Tactical squads will not go away with the edition, but maybe with the Marine Codex. Oh, there's always a new time when people are saying the tactical squad's going away. Ah. Is this making Indomitors better with 5 heavy bolters? Don't know. Depends on the special rules and stuff. Depends on the special rules we got. Right, so yeah, Eradicators with heavy bolters. There's always got to be a guy with a bolt pistol. I'm not liking that Mark 7 Gravis Marine. I know you're switching the faceplate so it looks less beetly. I don't think it works. But this is what we're going to see in 11th edition. It's not going to be, there are firstborn units, and then there are Primaris units. The Primaris ones and the firstborn ones are just merged generally. Like I was mentioning the Assault Marines, and then Assault Intercessors. You can pretty much use one as the other. Pretty much. Okay, Devastator Squad, but they've got heavy bolters. Well, here we are. Although the Devastator Squad was a lot more versatile, which I liked. Yep, perfect for cutting down orcs. It's going to be strength 5 and it's going to be rapid fire. Or not rapid fire, it'll be sustained hits because it's a heavy bolter. Land speeder is called a land speeder. Good. Yeah, that looks very fragile and breakable. Got some missiles, you got your Gatling cannon. Got your multi-melter. It returns, right? The Tornado and the Typhoon variants are merged, as is the basic land speeder. So we've gone from 3 off. There was also the Scouts version. The land speeder Typhoon. I think that was the land speeder that transported Space Marine Scouts. No, the reason that they have blue helmets is because that's how the Blood Angels do things. It's golden helmets if you're from the first company. Then it's blue helmets if you're from the Devastator company. And yellow helmets, like the Assault company? I think that's right. Or blue helmets are also sergeants. Scouts with the Storm Speeder. Right, okay. Land Speeder Storm. Or is it just called the Storm Speeder? Storm Speeder. I don't remember, but there was a bunch of them. Yeah, so all of those old kinds of the many variants of land speeder are merged together into one kind of land speeder called the land speeder. Yeah, blue is Devastators, yellow is Assault. I was right. The size of the new land speeder compared to the old one? Yeah, you could easily convert some of the old ones. I don't see why not, and I probably will be doing this. Good. Which faction among the three do I recommend getting to reach 2,000 points? I would say Genestealer Cult, because you can add in Astra Militarum stuff, and then you get to 2,000 points very quickly. It's not an amazing detachment, but it's a pretty fun detachment. No idea what's happening in the Space Marine lore? Yeah, we don't. We generally don't know. I don't think these land speeder missiles will be one use only. It looks like many other of the Space Marine missile launcher things. There's some missiles, fire them. They're not going to be hunter-killer missiles. Right, so the land speeder... You lost me for a second there. Are we back on? Tell me if you can hear me in chat. I can't tell if I've fully disconnected or not. It seems like I'm okay, right? Had to refresh it. Okay, good. We're back. That's what I like. Okay. I was saying the land speeder Typhoon, its current rule is the one I just mentioned in the stream. You fire and redeploy. So in the shooting phase, after you've shot, if you're not in engagement range, you make a normal move of D6, but you can't charge. Yes, we're familiar with this. So we've got the Typhoon missile launcher, which may be the 2D6 missiles, and then crack missiles as an option, it's a Space Marine missile launcher. You got the multi-melter, or you've got a heavy bolter, or both. I mean, it just looks like the land speeder Typhoon, actually. But you've got both options, and rather than a heavy bolter, you've got the Gatling cannon. Because I had a land speeder, and I eventually changed it into I think a tornado, which had 2 guns. Yeah, I did the land speeder tornado, which is you drive over things and you drop bombs at the same time. That has a heavy bolter and a heavy flamer, or a heavy bolter and an assault cannon, or a multi-melter instead of the heavy bolter. Land speeder Tempest. That was where each time this model makes an attack against the target's enemy unit, if there are no other units from your opponent's army within 6 of that target, you get +1 to wound, isolate, and destroy. But you have an assault cannon and the missile launcher, so it's not that amazing. They didn't do a proper Q&A with chat. No, they just took 2 to 3 of the questions that they definitely had, and then they were answering them. So when they said, oh yes, anything that's got a bear head can have a helmet, and then someone asked later, hey, does that librarian who doesn't have a helmet have a helmet option? They were like, yes, we have answered a live stream question. Shani, you are quite right. I was going to get to that point. They keep doing this where they split up datasheets into several different things with different weapon options, and then they recombine them again. But there's only one loadout or multiple different weapons all in one. Oh. Yes, Genestealer Cult and Imperial Guard together works fun. It's a fun thing. Right, where were we? Read more about the Space Marines. No. Read more about the Orcs. So there's your war boss, which is different to the one that we've seen already leaked, which we know is going to be the monopose sold separately box. So it's not this model, be a different model. This is the one that's in the starter set and is monopose push fit, rather than monopose multi-part requires glue. So you've got the biggest boss, and then you've got a quite big boss. It's an Orc Nob with a big double-headed axe. That looks like a nice axe. I like the orange lightning they've got going on there. That's good for the power weapon. Well painted. Big bosses are around. Yep, they've got big choppers, so he's good in combat. And what was his special rule? Was it sustained hits for the unit and +1 to charge? That's right. That's just called the Banner Nob. Yep, it's a Orc Nob with a... I assume that's just going to be a chopper. And you don't have to paint on the lightning. It'll be a standard chopper. Yeah, that's just a big chopper. That's a chopper. There's your banner. Yeah, I just do not like that big tube. I don't think you need that. If you get one, I would say cut off the tube. I do like the little Gretchen with the big saw though. That's nice. Yeah, seems like that's got the same rules as before, and maybe there'll be a slight tweak to the rules when the 11th edition Codex comes out. Big boss is indeed Orc Lieutenant. The Orc Banner Nob did get removed in 7th edition. They'd been around since 2nd edition. Again, their rules are right there in Legends. So if you want to play with this, there you go. There's the rules. Now, Scar Boys aren't around at the moment, which were like Orc Boys with a 4+ armor save, but not quite Nobs. They were just Orc Boys. No Power Claws at the moment, yeah. Wish the big boss was just called the Boss Nob instead. I kind of do, but the Boss Nob is a unit leader. Because you've got Nobs, which is the unit of Nobs. You've got Mega Nobs, which is Nobs in Mega Armor. Then the Boss Nob is the leader of an Orc Boy squad. There will also be a Boss Nob in the Nob unit. A Nob Boss Nob. A Boss Nob Nob. He hobnobs. And then you got your War Boss as the bigger guy. Main Boy has a peg leg? Does he indeed? So he does. Great, if you want a bit more of a pirate theme, there you go. So, half mad scientist. Well, you've also got your big mech, which is your real mad scientist. There's your weird boy who does psychic stuff. Again, a lot of tubes going on. I don't mind the tube so much there, as long as that's going to fit inside your box, wherever you try and store it. You may need to cut off some of the top tubes otherwise. So the gifted, yes, odd boy just refers to like many different kind of unusually minded boys. There's also mad boys. They don't have rules at the moment. They've been in the lore, they've had rules in the past. I remember all these units that were around and are now not around, and if they come back, I'd be like, oh yeah, good, they're back, great. Mad boys would just rush in and essentially have frenzy. Very much part of the feral orcs style. Yep, they explode. So boys, so we're getting 2 lots of 10, and there's a different way of doing the boss nob. So yeah, we've got shooter and chopper, we've got slugger and chopper on the left. In the middle, we've got slugger and chopper. We've got stick grenade and shooter. Top left, we've got shooters. They look okay as orcs. I have no problem with these orcs. They look very fun and orky. I do like the fluffy hat in the top left that's coming over his eyes. And it looks kind of like how some people have had their hair in the past. That's good. Right, I wish they'd tell us a bit more about the models, rather than just the lore of what an orc is. Oh yes, they use both their slugger and shooter. Right. And then Gretchen, we've got 10 Gretchen. So those 5 Gretchen twice over by the sounds of it. It's not ideal. Okay. I much prefer the Orc boys, although you get doubles of the same. We've had doubles of things in the past in the starter boxes. I'm not opposed to it. Oh, hey, there's a Mark 6 helmet. Do you see the Mark 6 helmet? Weird Boy would make for a great mech with some kit bashing. Yes. Yes, it would. Yeah, I'm also not a fan of the lightning bolt on that Weird Boy. I think it's a bit unnecessary, but it's something you can just cut off if you don't want it. So there's your war track, you've got your rocket launcher, and presumably in a multi-part kit, then you'll get several other weapon options, like a really big shooter, like a twin big shooter, and a scorcher. Yep. There's your Dakar rig, which is the big interesting kit. So that's got your force field, so that's a 5-up invulnerable save for the unit. And it'll fire lots of shots, and it's also got rockets. Yeah, it's a nice centerpiece kit. I'm glad that we've got a centerpiece of sorts for each side. Although a Land Speeder really seems like a support piece, a Dreadnought is much more, this is the centerpiece. But we had that last time, we had the Ballistus Dreadnought. Give us a bigger boxy Dreadnought. Do that. Read the lore. Then yes, everything else in the box. Oh, is this like a combined thing? No. No, it's not a combined article. All right, good. We have, is there a couple more articles? Or was that pretty much in everything? That was like an all-in-one. Unbox. Ah, right, yes. No, there is a more detailed version of these. So we can see some of the helmets and such. We'll do the Space Marine things first. Changing articles to Space Marines. Yes, unboxing the Space Marines. Now, it's not just what I've just shown off. We have, yeah, Captain with Relic Shield, but then we can see here he's got a different hat. And the little video is just a thing that they played in the live stream. We've already seen that. It's like a 1-minute piece. So we've got cloak, fancy cloak. There's your Mark 7 helmet, which looks right and proper with some laurels. And then you've got your vertical head crest on the Mark 10. That Mark 7 helmet just looks so correct. Not quite a Mark 7. It's got like the head piece. If you look at the ears of the Mark 7, it's a Mark 10 helmet, but with a different faceplate. It's not all more text for the model, so it's, at this point, it's stuff. You can scythe through orcs. And yes, there's a different hat. So pretty much in the live stream, they had been given a brief of, this is what the article's going to say. If you want to just read from the article and mention these points, they'd be probably given some bullet points from the article. Yep, there's your librarian. Again, cloak. There's your helmeted version. Choice of heads. There's a chaplain. Now, does the chaplain have an alternate head? Doesn't look like it, actually. I was expecting maybe a bear head. I mean, you could just put one of the other bear heads on the chaplain, but you haven't got the vampire teeth head. That's what I was thinking. There isn't even that level of blood angeliness. Yep, they slap people with their Crozius. And the Vanguard veterans, so we've got a guy with a two-handed sword, but it's just the one sword, at least for now, at least in the starter set. When we got the Leviathan stuff, there was also slight variations between the datasheets. For example, the Termagants in the 10th edition starter set, the Leviathan starter set, all of them had flesh borers. So the cards that came with that set all mentioned flesh borers. Then when we got the Termagant box, then it had spike rifles and other slightly more exotic weapons that we've seen before in 2nd edition. So Vanguard veterans may yet have weapons other than power swords. A Vanguard veteran, 2 other Vanguard veterans, the one in the bottom left is my favorite. That's a pretty good way on the top right to make it look like he's flying or landing or taking off, but he hasn't got one foot entirely on the tactical rock. He's just posed against it. Then we've got the leaping from the tactical rock as standard, which does look like a jump pack intercessor. We've got some models on the ground as well. Okay, there's your different head. There's a guy without a helmet. Ooh. Interesting that if that is the same guy, the bionic eye is over his blinded eye. That may not be the sensible idea. It helps me see better to have this monocle over my eye patch. Mastercraft power weapons. Yes, it'll be damage 2, maybe power swords. Did we say we'd already seen and shown off the different articles, the bits? Here we are. Echo has been putting some things in. Ooh, very nice. So if we could see... here we are, Vanguard Veteran Squad. Yeah, we've got the bolt pistol, we've got the plasma pistol, and yes, it's a damage 2 sword. So exactly the same as the Blade Guard have. I'm not opposed to that. If you've played with the Decimus kill team, having damage 2 power swords is rather nice. Can't see exactly how many attacks that is. If it's more than 3, that's impressive. Same ability, one they charge, lethal hits. Oh, and the big boss, we can see some of the stuff for that. It's got a 4+ armor save, as you'd expect from a nob. He's got a slugger and a twin axe, which has cleave 1. Okay. So I assume that's like blast 1. 5 wounds. Space Marine Captain looks exactly the same as Space Marine Captain-y. Very good. Thank you for dropping those in, Echo. Five attacks. 5 attacks. Yeah, it does look like 5 attacks. That's impressive. Yeah, we know cleave is going to be blast for melee. So blast 1 is like blast... we might get blast 2. So for every 5 models in the squad, you get 2 extra attacks. That might make sense on perhaps like a twin linked weapon, where it's essentially firing twice, but not firing twice. Yep. Then we've got the intercessors, but close up. Very good. One slightly different torso. Once they were all Mark 10, now they have lots of old stuff, but we've only seen a bit of Mark 7 helmets. Which isn't really that much different. And I thought part of the problem was you haven't got the compatibility of older kits with Mark 10. Whereas with like the Mark 7, you can have Mark 6 and Mark 4 and Mark 3 and whatever bits. They all can go together in some part. You might have Mark 6 legs, you might have a Mark 4 torso, and a Mark 7 helmet. I mean, those rules alone, 5 attacks at damage 2 with power swords. I'm very happy with that on Vanguard veterans. It's better than the current, was it strength 5, AP -1, damage 1? E for Vanguard veterans. I should also look at the Vanguard veterans on foot. Which is kind of what Blade Guard are. when you think about it, to just have shields. Yeah, so currently they're 4 attacks at damage 1. So they're going to be 5 attacks at damage 2. They may also... Did we see if they had more than 2 wounds? No, they still have 2 wounds. So they're not like Blade Guard with their shields. 2 wounds, so probably a similar number of points. If they haven't got the variety of weapons, you haven't got the option to have them with shields, then maybe they'll stay around 100 points as they are at the moment. Maybe they'll go back up to 120 points like the guys on foot are. I've liked the Twin Linked in 10th edition is reroll wound rolls. That has made it a bit better. Including a bajillion helmets. Yeah, there'll probably be enough helmets to give all of them Mark 7 helmets. I expect. Yeah, that's an interesting one on the Rhino. I was expecting when they were showing off stuff about Space Marines and transports for the start of 10th edition, they were saying, oh yeah, you know, you can go in a Land Raider now. So I was all ready to think about putting Assault Intercessors in a Rhino. And then suddenly you can't? Yeah, no. Has there actually been changes to Melter, or is that just conjecture? Chris must answer. Oh, extra bits on the Heroic Intervention stratagem. Is there indeed? So from what I can see, we've got explosives, which is the grenades keyword. Right, 1 friendly unengaged explosive / grenades unit. So that sounds like a keyword that's eventually going to be changed from one to the other. Or we might have a big update. I mean, it seems easier to, like, everything's on an app. You can update it. It's fine. Pretty much the same. And yes, you've got your references to rules. Rule 06.02. You roll 6 dice. Each one's a mortal wound. Crushing Impact is monster / vehicle units can do it. Snap Shooting, your unit shoots as described in making attacks. Okay. Yeah, that's just going to be you fire, but you only hit on 6s. I don't think there'll be anything special for flamer weapons, torrent weapons. They may operate much as they are at the moment, because the strength of flamers in 10th edition comes through being able to auto-hit on Overwatch, which is why you take them. So that whether the infantry unit is hiding or not, you can shoot them with the flamer weapons and you will hit them and kill them. Heroic Intervention. So, end of your opponent's charge phase, 1 friendly unengaged unit within 12. You can only pick a vehicle if it's a character or walker. Well, that should mean that monsters can do it just fine. I can't remember if that's allowed at the moment. You make a charge roll, but you must select enemy units that are what, in engagement range, maybe? I would assume that's the case, that you can only do Heroic Intervention against enemies that are in engagement range. Leap to defend or into the fray. Okay, so there's 2 things that will happen from that. They should also show off the stratagems, the core stratagems, at some point in an article in the next few months. Grenades lets you do that at fall back. Are we sure? 1 unengaged explosive that is eligible to shoot and did not make an advance move. You're right. Makes no mention of falling back and shooting. So as long as you have a fall back and shoot, again, you can use grenades. Interesting, interesting. Because at the moment, it's you didn't fall back, you didn't advance. Pretty standard stuff. Did I say a few months? I meant a few weeks. Showing off the article and the core rules in the next few weeks. Then 11th edition, as we know, is happening in June because they've had it on posters. So here's our guy reloading his box. That's why there's a box on the floor. So he's got his pistol out to shoot someone up close. You're in heavy armor, you can probably just take the hit. Oh, that one's firing bullets. Oh, that's nice. The orcs are like that. That's usually an orc thing to see the magazine bullet casings being ejected. So you'll have to add on a 3D sculpted explosion coming out the barrel. Yep. Heavy bolters to kill them. Good. I'm glad we didn't invent some new gun. I'm glad we weren't like, okay, it's a heavy bolter Gatling cannon, and so we have to Gatling cannon the enemy. We're just saying it's a heavy bolter. It's already really good at stopping orcs. Then we've got the land speeder. Weapon options for the multi-part kit will become available at some point. If we get a multi-part kit, not all of these will become a multi-part kit. I'm assuming that the intercessors are fine because they already are a multi-part kit. Land speeder should be a multi-part kit. Vanguard veterans should be a multi-part kit. And then there's just the characters after that, isn't there? Is that then everything in the box? Yeah. I mean, there might not be a multi-part kit for the Eradicators. Good. Right, okay. So they said something about heavy flamers. Land speeders shoot. Onslaught Gatling cannon is standard. They can replace it with a heavy flamer. So either way, they have the multi-melter by the sound of it. All right, so even in this box, you get the heavy flamer. Very interesting. They don't usually do weapon options in these starter sets. And you get the multi-melter and you got missiles. Okay, so what do we got for colors? So there's some Ultramarines. It's been a while since I've seen that dam. Now that dam piece was in the 5th edition rulebook. I'm pretty sure it was the 5th edition rulebook. So they've had that for a while. There's a salamandery version. Very feral looking orcs. Nice. There's your Crimson Fists. There's your White Scars. Good. Okay, I think there's just the Orc article left, which will show off a bit more of the orcs and say more information about the orcs. Let's change up the article again. Article changing noise. Bloop, bloop, bloop. The orcs. Right, so there's your war boss. Yeah, they've got the same weapons as they always have. The custom shooter and the big chopper. Same as like the metal one from 3rd edition. No power claws. Nope, no power claws, of course. Yeah, you got your fuel canister, which I think that's just to make the chain blade spin faster, maybe. Now, the war boss big chopper is like 2 damage and strength 7. No, strength 8. AP -1, because it is a chain weapon. And you get even more attacks in the war. And now we know he's going to have cleave, so we'll get even more attacks in combat. Might get Eradicators with las cannons or grav cannons, unless they're dropping grav, which they seem to, because we haven't had anything grav since they released it in 6th edition. They haven't been like, oh yeah, we're going to double down on grav. Just not there. Flamers with no template. No, we're past templates. Yeah, there's our Orc Lieutenant, the big boss. The second biggest boy. They have a squig? Oh yes, they have a weird squiggly beast. That's a fancy little squiggly beast. That's like a wormy squiggly beast. I like that squiggly beast. There's your banner. Some of the pieces look like they're sculpted on, like the 4 squares in the corner. They look like they're already there, and you put where that big goth symbol is, that's where you'll be able to put on one of the transfers for your own clan, like snake bites. Yeah, we know to get rid of the tube on the orc boy. There's your weird boy. Very nice. Yeah, you've got headbanger, got the jump, same as before. There's your orc boys, including your boss knob. Tiny spiky helmets. I like that one on the left. That's very scary. That one on the right is also scary. They're making the orcs a bit more scary, rather than just being silly little dudes. Yeah, they all look like they're trying to murder me. Even this guy with no shoes. That one on the right with no shoes looks like he's going to kill me. After all, orcs are rather horrifying creatures. And we know they've got 2 gun options and head options for the boss knob. And there might be a couple of backpack options. Like, ooh, you can put a different backpack on a guy so he looks different. 20 in the box. One has a combi rocket, one has a combi shooter. Yes, and interchangeable heads. Is it 2 lots of the same Gretchen? That does look like the same ones, just rearranged. Yeah, and look, they painted some of the top knots a bit different. Oh no, this looks like there's slight variation. Like the gun posing. Ah, right, it's just because the way it's a multi-part but monopose kit. So you see the guy in the bottom middle who's holding a knife? Well, now he's holding a grenade and has a different hat. And the guy that was holding a grenade now has a chopper. Yeah, and you've got like gun pointing down, gun pointing forwards, gun pointing down, gun pointing forwards. So that's an interesting way of doing, yes, it's 5 models, twice over. However, you can put enough variation between them. Yeah, so there's all 5 guys, but in various poses. Then the war track with its rockets. Oh, there's a knob firing on the back, so it might have decent combat as well if there's a knob with a chopper. Usually seen along war bikes. Wonder if it must be a separate unit. But it might do something well with the war bikes in some way. Like a supporting rule. Although the orc war bikers already have a supporting rule. No, that's only to make their own shooting better. You get an extra point of AP if you shoot within 9 inches. Like half range. Okay, so there may be a suppressing rule. You hit the enemy's -1 to hit for the next turn. And then you've got your orc, Dakarig. Big gun. Big gun is shooting. This does look better than the ATV for sure. Yeah, I prefer that to the quad bike that the Space Marines got, which did look kind of silly. It always has looked kind of Mario Kart. Right, Dakarig, that is a very big gun. We don't know its stats. It sounds like it can blow up, so it'll have hazardous. Firing loader shots from its blitzer cannon and some rockets too. Shootier than a Death Dread, but not as good in combat. Okay, so it's your variation. A lot of the Games Workshop units are, it's the same thing, but now combat. Or it's the same thing, but now shooting. So think of the Seraphim. They were around since 2nd edition, and then come 9th edition, we had Seraphim, but with power swords. So it's a combat version of a previous shooting unit. And we do the same with, okay, we've got the Death Dread. It's a little bit shooting, but it's mainly the big chompy claws. Well, what if we had a shooting version that fired loads of shots rather than having loads of combat attacks? And here it is. It's not that they're short of ideas, it's just why not do the easy ones that people expect? We'll be showing off its rules on Warhammer Community soon. Good, so we get to see all the rules soon enough. Again, that'll be like next week maybe. That's not stuff that massively interests me. Like, oh great, a unit profile. Well, there we go. And there'll be keywords like, we know the explosives word is coming. We know that grenades may be getting phased out. We've got cleave as an ability. I don't know if the red ones go faster you want on a static or near static gun platform, but it works on the buggy. That's some smushed salamanders. Nice. Looted boys. And that's all of the everything. Okay. That's us. I don't think there's any other articles. I think we're all articled out. I think that's all the information that we're going to get from this unboxing. I can't make out enough of the different words on like the stratagems to be able to see them any better. We know that Orc boys are the same, Space Marine captains are the same. War boss looks the same, and Vanguard veterans are slightly better, slightly different. I would say slightly different. You've lost your specialized weapons, and there you go. Good damage to power sword. Overwatch is movement only. I see. Yeah, no runt herd mentioned, so they may end up being a character add-on, and they'll sell, like Zogwart is a runt herder of sorts, so they may sell a runt herder add-on character. It's kind of like they've done with Repentia. The Repentia had their superior not sold separately, but they were an add-on character that you added to the Repentia. Or maybe you can't actually have Gretchen without a runt herd, except in this starter set. And then they'll be sold as a unit of 11, as they have been. Is that stat assumed for the big walker thing? The toughness 8? The Dakar rig is going to be toughness 8 with 11 wounds, or have we actually seen the rules for that? I mean, that sounds right either way. I know grenades are still there and it's mentioned. I just don't know why explosives is different to grenades. Interesting one. Yeah, okay, they show the card in the stream. Very good. Well, that is exactly as I expected it to be then. With toughness 8, because the Orc Death Dread is what, toughness 9? With 8 wounds. Yeah, toughness 9, 8 wounds, 2+ save. So even though it's bigger, it's essentially like a Death Dread. A little bit lower armor save, but with an invulnerable save, and fewer wounds. If monsters have tank shock, does that mean you can tank shock with Lionel Johnson? I expect so. The Orcs already have a Dreadnought Walker, but it's a Death Dread. Can't imagine the Tyranids and Necrons causing explosions. No, you may be right. There may end up being basically no difference, and it's just a way of eventually, as the codexes come out, they will replace the grenades keyword with the explosives keyword. I don't see the great benefit of doing that, but that's something they could do. Some units are explosives. Maybe explosives gets used in some other way. Like explosives can do multiple things. Grenades can do multiple things. Yeah, they could be slightly different in some way. But for the Orcs, this is getting a lot of variations on what already exists. Models that have already existed in the past that have current rules, but people will not use them and pretend they're not there. And I'll stick them in their face and they're like, no, it's not real. It's not real. There's no knob with War Banner. Ah, it's real. It's really there. It's something you can play. You should play it. We know a bit more about the rules. We know a bit more about the models. But these won't be the full models. But as a box set, how are you feeling about it? Give me a yes or a no if you're interested in chat. Are you going to buy it when it comes out? That's the main thing. If you don't play Orcs or Space Marines, I think there's an obvious answer. And then the mission deck will be sold separately. Hard pass is not played. Probably going to get it. Not going to buy it because you don't play either army. Orc players are buying it? Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about if you already have the old models. Like, I've got a land speeder. I don't need another land speeder. I've got a squad of guys ready to be made up as Vanguard veterans. With power swords. From the box. I don't need to get a new set. I've got the war track. I don't need another Orc war track, but slightly bigger. I do like that it's got a base now. More vehicles should have a base. Then you don't have to have the whole, I'm measuring from the hull, and where the hull is very dependent on how many antennas you've stuck on it and where the gun sticks out. They should at least have enough of these mission decks, because if they're going to have one in every starter set, plus they're sold separately, there should be enough of them. There wasn't a shortage of the Leviathan mission deck, but then there was for the Pariah Nexus mission deck. Oh yeah, we've got the Wing Prime. That's a Lieutenant style model, yeah. Which also did exist in the past. With rules, if not as its own independent model. But you just made one from a Tyrannid Warrior. It was like, great, the Sergeant is the Prime. Let's go. Main Tyranids, no idea what the support will be. We may have seen everything for Tyranids for a while, because it was quite a lot of units in 10th edition. Like, the Necrons also got quite a lot of things in 9th edition. And the Death Guard got massively expanded beyond any other of the Chaos sub-factions in 8th edition. I believe you are correct, Wakshani. Yes, this is a limited edition run that'll be around for, you know, like 3 months until Christmas. And then there'll be the Ultimate Starter Set, which will be pretty much all of it, but without, like, the lore book. And maybe without the campaign book, and maybe without the mission deck. And then there'll be the normal set, which is fewer models, and a smaller starter set, which will be like a squad of Orc boys, the boss Nob, a war track, yeah, land speeder, as many intercessors as are on one sprue, and a captain. There you go. And then like a paint set, and you'll get a couple of intercessors. They have gotten better in the whole, okay, we have this one model, we can now put them on their own separate sprue, and that can be a model of the month. Go get your model of the month tomorrow. It's a Votan model, we've seen it before, but it makes for a good, like, Acolyte. Or Imperial Guard, no, Battle Sister Preacher. I did want to see some Tactical Marines. It doesn't feel like a starter set without Tactical Marines. I know there's 10 intercessors, but how difficult would it have been instead of the grenade launcher guy to have a melter gun? Or a flamer. Just have a flamer. Or a missile launcher. Hey, do you remember the Tactical Squad used to have a flamer and a missile launcher and was in every starter set? If they'd done them, upscaled, sure they can be in half Mark 10, half Mark 7 armor, people would have liked it. We may yet see a new Tactical Squad kit. But at least we know the Tactical Squad is surviving for yet another few months. Unsurprising to me. Alright, that's where we're going to leave the stream. It's been a good stream, but we've been going for 3 hours now. Lovely. I've had fun. I hope you've had fun. More videos will come out, you know, next week. May do a follow-up on the Armored Spear tip. about how to defeat it, and maybe I'll get Final Day done next week. The final one, and then we're almost done with Genestealer Cult. I've got some other Genestealer Cult videos to come out. I always have more Genestealer Cult videos to come out. And Battle Sister videos, of course. Many, many things. And hopefully I get more rule stuff and information next week that isn't just showing off these datasheets that we've already sneaked through already. Am I done talking about Intransia Frey? I mean, I'll try her at some point in a game. See if she's any different from what I think, but it's very good. Or quite good as a unit. The points let it down a bit. We'll see if there's any big change once she gets on the table. Then there'll be a follow-up. Okay, we're good. This has been fun. I'll see you next time.